It's time for a little Funky Friday. From their funky hidden headquarters, your hosts, Keith and Gary. Not Jerry.
Hey guys, welcome to another TGIF. This is going to be an interesting show because our guest is having some internet issues. But once he's able to resolve it and join us, we're going to have Kamran Pasha. Oh, there he is. There's Kamran.
Hey guys. Thank you. I'm delighted to come back because this is full circle. Because the last time I was on this channel, we were going to talk about the topic. We didn't know yet what it was, and we talked about today's topic. And so and you had said at the time, Jerry, when this thing is out, I would love for you to come back and talk with us. And I'm honoring that and coming back and on your lovely channel. And
we love having you on. Whether we agree or not, it doesn't really matter. I love having you as a guest. You're awesome. One, you're a sweetheart. Two, you're a thoughtful person. Three, you know what the fuck you're talking about. And that's it. That's the trifecta for me.
Well, and you guys are great hosts, and you're always very, very gracious, and you have a broad range of opinions here. The only thing I'm missing is there's no lovely ladies. You always have some lovely ladies on screen here, and I got these two dudes, and it is what it is.
It's a dick party. Oh, it's a bunch of guys over 40 talking about little
girls. Got demonetized there, Keith. There you go. Keith's reactions are wonderful because Jerry's himself, and most of the time I'm seeing Keith doing this. But that's good.
And we both have the same hat on, except for his is blue for Air Force and mine's green for Army.
Okay. So you're both veterans.
Well, he's got kids who are veterans, and I'm a veteran, and pretty much all the men in my family are veterans.
I just support the military. You know, I just think the world of all our veterans. So.
Absolutely. May we get the leadership that they deserve, which has always been a horrible problem of our military. Is these are honorable, courageous. Young people, especially, who are often sent into directions that are by people that are not worthy of that. And so let us get the leadership they deserve.
Exactly. So I want to greet those of us who have joined us already. We got Lord Thoth is here. It's always good to see Lord Thoth. Scribe Light, who's a good friend of mine. I like writers. I like hanging out with writers more than I like hanging out with other artists because I like writing. And let's see. Penny J is here. That is Dork Knight's mother. Anima Confusa is here. She was just watching me on my morning show. My good friend Sox Bulletin and CJ Bat Punk, who you will be amused. I called him CJ Bat Spunk the other day, and I just cracked up laughing. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, subconscious release is what we think about.
I know, Freudian slip. The community.
Freud would know how to handle that one, my friend. Even Jung would be like, I don't know about this, buddy. I don't know where the archetype falls in that one.
I don't know either. But Monkey Jeeves is here. He's one of my two favorite monkeys, him and War Monkey. And yes, you just saw him on Midnight's Edge. Plus, Polly just talked to you yesterday.
Yeah, Paulie and I, we had a talk, about this show in detail. I won't have as much. I still talk for almost 2 hours with him. I won't have 2 hours, but I want to spend a good amount of time here.
Yeah, because you have to go to your is it afternoon prayers?
Yeah, it's Friday prayers. It's the mosque, and Friday is the sacred day of Islam, Saturday for Judaism, Sunday for Christianity. So our Abrahamics.
Well, oddly, Saturday for Catholics. That's our.
Oh, okay.
We celebrate Friday. Saturday is our technically as our Eucharist day.
Well, it makes sense because. It's always been interesting to me to watch how those holidays, those sacred days separated between Judaism and Christianity because one originates from the other. So that's always interesting. So, yeah.
And I've always found, and I've always wanted to ask you, have you ever met Coptic Christians? I've never met one.
Oh, yeah, sure. I've been to Egypt. And
what was that like?
Well, I love Egypt. I've been there several times. My sister, I went there once just with a friend, and we just did the incredible tours of all the way from pyramids to Aswan, everything. Then I went. My sister actually worked a few years after I first went. She became a professor at the American University in Cairo, and so I would go see her. And my father, and I couldn't even imagine, my simple father from Pakistan, and which is related to today's talk here, right? My simple immigrant father from Pakistan, taking him to see the pyramids. And I have these incredible photos of him at the pyramids, which we could never have imagined that his life journey would have led him to the pyramids, right? Because he experienced a lot of the things that were on the show. Like he experienced the partition of India, all the horrors of that. And so the idea of him enjoying himself at the pyramids doesn't matter. But yeah, but to answer your other question, yes, I've been to Egypt. One of my guides the first time I went was Coptic Christian. The Copts are an early Christian group. They split off from Catholicism about the 4th century. They had some, as a lot of groups, they had a doctrinal difference about the nature of Christ and the Greek word around this. So that's how they split. But they've got their own thing going on. It's a very ancient church. When Muslims conquered Egypt back in the 7th century, Coptic Christians were the majority. And there's a fascinating. There is a monastery, St. Catherine's Monastery, which is very famous in Sinai, right?
Right.
And to this day, the St. Catherine's Monastery has an official letter, a parchment, that was sent to them by the Prophet Muhammad when the first sort of military conflict happened because Egypt was controlled essentially by the Byzantine government, right? So between the Byzantine Empire and the Muslims, and he sent a letter which they still have framed in the monastery, granting all Coptic Christians protection, saying that their churches would be protected. The Muslims they're fighting the Byzantine imperial army, but the Coptic Christians were people of the book, and that their priests would be protected and their rights to worship would be protected. So Egypt remained majority Coptic Christian under Islam for about 4 centuries. So it is now a minority, but it is still.
They only make up of I think the last time I checked was about 11%.
Yeah, and that's over 1,500 years of historical process. But
Right.
But they're wonderful people, and very gracious. It was fascinating to meet them when I was there. And there was an incident. Again, we don't have to go off on religion, but now you're asking about Egypt. There's an incident that's a really interesting historical incident that happened in the 80s, where there were all these Virgin Mary sightings happening in Egypt, both in Coptic churches and in Muslim mosques. These were like these Marian sightings that were happening, and it was becoming a frenzy in Egypt, like in the 80s, because everyone was like, "We showed up at my church, we showed up at my mosque," right? Because she's part of both religions, and there was this interesting thing of how this figure at a time when there was a lot of tension between the two religions in Egypt was actually these apparitions were uniting the communities. So it's a very interesting phenomenon. But I love Egypt. Everyone's got to go there.
I've stopped through Cairo once. And I found it interesting. It was through the military. And I remember stopping through Israel. I got to go to Jerusalem, and but I didn't get to really stay long. And what I found interesting, and this has nothing to say about anybody, but I found it interesting of how filthy I felt. I felt like I was in New York City, really, in some ways, when I went to Jerusalem. And then I went to Cairo, brief stop through. And it was like the cleanest place I'd ever been to.
Well, it's a very tourist central place, right? And it still has a Middle Eastern charm. You'll still see camels on the street with the buses and the cars, right? It's still got that, but they're very tourist friendly, and their whole economy is based on tourism. And if you haven't seen, I will say this: the first time you see the pyramids with your own eyes, it's heart stopping. Right, you've seen them all your life in photos and TV, movies.
Yeah,
right?
I only get to see them at a distance, and it's one of the things I want to see in person. But
when I drove up to them, because you go through these valley with all these sand dunes, so they disappear from sight for a while, and then suddenly you come up a sand dune, and you're right at the base of the Great Pyramid, and it's towering over you, and your heart stops because it is grander than you can imagine with your own eyes.
Yeah. CJ is just on a tirade right now about me calling him bat spunk. I loved it. There's only one weird thing, which I'll share that after the show.
Okay, sure.
Or sometime we can talk privately, because I don't want to talk about publicly what happened when I got off of our vehicle, and it was very uncomfortable for me. I'll just say that at first, because at first I'm just going to say it. These young boys approached me. And the other men in my they were getting off the vehicle, and we thought they were just looking for money, and then we were warned, no, they're young prostitutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of stuff happens,
and it just freaked me out, because I'm like just so Midwestern. I'm so plain.
I mean, look, that you go to Thailand, you go anywhere in the world, poor countries, that kind of stuff happens, right? I mean, it's just tragedy of people trying
I bet it doesn't happen quite as much as it used to, because this is way back in 91. So I'm sure it's changed. No, it's still the same. Okay.
Poor people. Look, I mean, poor countries, bad stuff happens, right? I mean, it's people just trying to put food on their table. It's a horrible thing. Let's talk about positive things. Let's talk about positive.
Yes, and what's this? Youngest daughter, die-hard fan of Tron, just like me. Yeah. We began to watch Tron Uprising, and she loves it. And by the way, one of your writers that worked on that with you actually wrote the single best episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Which writer was that? I haven't watched the show.
I can't remember his name. Oh, I can't remember it. But I know that he worked on the
show. There was Bill Walkoff was one of them.
That's who. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was
Bill's a brilliant writer. Bill's a brilliant
absolutely writer. The best Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode. All the other episodes kind of failed, whereas they would have good stuff surrounded by bad, dumb stuff. But this one episode was solid from beginning to end. I can't remember which episode it was. And I would say, who the fuck wrote that? And I saw it was one of your co-writers from Tron
I hired Bill on the show, and very proud of him. He was a brilliant guy when I met him. He's a young writer. He's obviously gone very far since the decade that I worked on that show. But, he's a really, really good guy and an absolute science fiction geek. So that's why he brought authenticity.
And, when you write shows like that, you have to understand how to use ABC stories. And it's one of the things that they're even failing with on Orville, where they did really well for the most part through seasons 1 and season 2, the first 2 episodes of this new season, but everything's kind of fallen apart. They did something last night that surprised me, or this last episode, where they flipped it, the A and B story. Okay. It starts out with this A story and the B story is here, and then all of a sudden, that B story became the main story. And I was like, oh, I liked what you did there. That was interesting. But they kept the C story where it belonged as a character development study for one character. You do that like per episode. That way you get good character development throughout the series of all your top characters. I love stuff like that. It was good writing.
Well, I mean, The Next Generation was a master of ABC stories. Also, Deep Space Nine, which I think is the greatest of the Star Trek shows since the original Star Trek, is Ira Behr was my first boss, the creator of Deep Space Nine, and to this day he's the best showrunner I've ever worked with. He's an absolute visionary, and but they mastered that on Deep Space Nine as well. You have all these little side stories that often would be arcs over multiple episodes that would be seeded, like a C story that you would follow over many episodes. So
right, wow. Yeah. And I'm not going to disagree with you, Lord Thoth. I believe it's closer to 75% bad and 25% good, except for that one episode that Bill was the main writer on, because that was a solid episode from beginning to end. And that's where you find out this kid is actually going to be used as a conduit to save the planet. Pike isn't made aware of this, that this kid's going to be sacrificed that he's met. And what a tough episode. I really enjoyed the writing on that one. I'm not going to worry about the canon, because once Enterprise came out, they pretty much open range on what's canon and what isn't canon.
Sure. I mean, Enterprise was the last one that I think I saw, right? I mean, I haven't really watched it. I didn't watch any of this Kurtzman stuff because I enjoyed the first movie, the new Star Trek movie, and then I was like, oh, it's interesting. Oh, they destroyed they destroyed Vulcan. Okay, it's a new timeline. Okay. And then the second movie, I was like, what the hell is this garbage? And then I was out.
I'm out. Yeah, I was kind of out with even the first one, because basically JJ admitted that he's not a Star Trek fan. He's a Star Wars fan, which I even question that. But he turned Star Trek into Star Wars. He made it into an adventure.
Star Wars into something else. And so.
Exactly. That's why I question his rationale. But let's get on to Miss Marvel, because I wasn't going to watch it because even though the trailers didn't look awful, and I like the song that they opened with. I love that song. I just felt like this is a puberty story of a girl and going into her, blossoming into a young woman, going to fall in love. And I'm like, I remember when my daughter made me watch that, was it Kick It Like Beckham movie? And I felt so uncomfortable watching that in Princess Diaries, with my daughter. But I'm a mom as much as I am a dad, so I'd watch them. But now I feel, I'm not saying anything about you guys. I feel creepy watching a show about a pubescent girl. It's just like, Yeah, you shouldn't be watching
Well,
this. I feel
those
like
are all personal subjective judgments.
they're completely subjective.
I love the Princess Diaries. It happened the week of September 11th. I needed that break, and I went, and the audience was packed with adults who needed to escape September 11th.
Oh, I
But Keith,
fucking enjoyed that film. I'll admit it. Fuck it.
Keith, you were going to say. I
I
apologize.
was just going to say, you know, for me, I just think of it more akin to Buffy, you know, just not as
That's
adult as Buffy would go. But that's the way I looked at it. Now, I, like you, Gary, wasn't originally going to watch it, but because Cameron asked us to, I did, and I thought it was good. It was
solid
good,
writing.
and I loved. Look, for me, I loved the entire cast. The chemistry that they had was so natural, which really helped me get into the story more. And
It's a very likable cast, and I think
Yes.
Iman Vellani, you know, whatever, and we're going to talk about story points, but I think
Yes.
Iman Vellani, who is cast as Ms. Marvel, I think she's absolutely a star. I mean, she's so likable, she's so enjoyable. I mean, it's a person I want to hang out with. I want to introduce her to my niece. You know, she's a shining light, and compared to her, you know, the character's icon of of Captain Marvel, who's not, you know, that likable. It's a really remarkable difference.
yeah. And it was just good. It was just, all of it was solid for me. I just found myself just sitting there and enjoying each episode, some more than others. I didn't think it was horrible. Trust me, if I thought it was horrible, I would have just stopped watching. But
no, it's not horrible. It's just different. It's not something I would normally want to watch. But I
found it to be, I think, really, in my opinion, I think they put a lot behind this in a way that they're going to use this as a substitute for bringing in Miles Morales. What they did with this character is exactly the same function that Miles had. And because they don't have control of that character, it made it easier for them to introduce this particular character.
That's a very take. I think there's a lot of truth to that no one said out loud yet.
Yeah, and I think they're going to use that as an excuse not to have Miles at all. I think there's going to be a lot of Miles fans that are going to be disappointed because they'll use that as a way of not bringing in that particular character. And that's fine. I mean, there's room for everybody in my thought, but you know, that's what we're in the middle of doing right now. But as far as this particular character, this story, I found it to be really good. I'd sit down with my granddaughter and watch this if I, you know, if I could. Although she's a little on the young side, but I could see
how young is your granddaughter?
She's 5.
Okay, I think she'll get it. I mean, I think she'll get it. You know, I will say this, Keith. What's interesting about this show is that it's the first show I've watched with my mother in decades. I watch it every week, except this week where she's traveling, the finale, which is, I think she would like. But every week we sat down with popcorn and watched it together. I haven't had that family bonding experience since probably I was a teenager, and I'm years old. And we'll talk about, because, you know, a lot of it, especially the episodes that dealt with the past, were very, very meaningful and painful because my mother was born in India. My father was born in India. They both came over during the partition, which is a central part of an arc of the show, going back to that horrific event, right? It was very emotional for us because it was something that our family actually endured, right? And so it will. But the great thing is, I'm getting that feedback on my Patreon. People are watching it with their kids. It's actually serving something we haven't seen in a while, which is the sort of that Little House on the Prairie thing where you can bring families together around a TV set.
That is very important. And I think if Disney is to really survive what it's going through right now, they need more of that. You know, you can never have too much of that, and that's always a positive thing. You know, so
and on this thing, and we talked about it this time when I was on, Jerry, with you last time with the larger panel. This show has been heavily reshot. It's been reshot over a year. I mean, this has been a rework show. I have friends that are writers on the show. I have friends in the production of the show. So I've got multiple sources. And I've written for about a year now my concerns that this was going to be a disaster based on what they told me, right? I've written that on my Patreon, multiple articles about inner problems that they had on the show. And there's a reason it was in the can since February of 2021 and was not released. Because Bob Chapek said, the hell is this garbage? You know, we're not going to put this out. And it was that bad that he wasn't going to put it out. And then they said, okay, can we rework it? He's like, yeah, I want a family-friendly show. I don't, whatever this thing is, which I think, you know, a lot of people haven't watched it because the comic apparently went to a very, very woke place. Some people say, not for me, right? Some people who actually like the comic, like, okay, it's gone in a wacky direction. I don't want this, right? And as a result, a lot of people say, I'm out. I'm not going to watch the show. And apparently that may have been the direction that the original cut of this show was that. And then Chapek said, yeah, not under my watch. I'm not putting this thing out. Go fix it. And they spent a year fixing it. And I think they did an amazing job, because I had dinner with one of the writers recently, and he's like, oh yeah, you have no idea what it was. You have no idea what it was, you know, but now it's good, right? And so that's a remarkable change.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why the creator of the character for the comic probably isn't doing very much. You know, I think part of it was
I'm not hearing about her at all.
Yeah, she's pretty much quiet, and I think a lot of it probably had to do with the fact that they had to make changes from what she had placed in the comic. And again, it's
she's
not
probably
like,
upset, and they told her to shut up too. It's probably
basically she had her own way of doing things, her own agenda for what she put together, and I think Chapek getting involved kind of changed a lot of what she had originally infused the character with in the comics. And so to me, you know, I can't be too upset about that.
That's a win for us, because that's readjusting to the marketplace of what we want. And you know what's interesting is one of the things I think that cut would never have worked. The comic book cut, right? Is Iman Vellani can't sell that. She's too likable. She's not woke, you know, brown progressive warrior woman. She's just not. She's my niece, who's a sweet, you know.
Yeah, and that's what she really does come across as. She's very likable, or as I refer to it, as affable.
Affable, old-fashioned word.
You know, it's just you know, you would feel comfortable have a conversation with someone like her, even as an adult.
Hang out with your family. I mean, you know, Brie Larson. Really? I don't know that I'm bringing her home to see my mom. You know, because you don't know what the hell she's going to say.
I would say that about anybody in the cast.
Yeah.
The actor playing her brother was. I mean, the whole dynamic
he was hilarious,
of that cast
dude.
is just, you buy it. You can actually believe that these people are all related, that they are the people that they're pretending to be.
And this really does come across as a family show.
Yes.
And I do
Which
enjoy
we haven't
that.
had. Hawkeye isn't really a family show.
No.
I don't think Loki was a family show.
No.
You know, Moonlight wasn't a family show.
No.
And, you know, we haven't
and
really
each one of
had
those
that
were a
anywhere.
disaster because they did the bait and switch thing. Thanks to, you know, I don't know how you feel about her, but we are not fans of Victoria Alonso. That she has been the downfall of Marvel.
Yeah.
And but she won't do that on a show that's designated as a girl show. There's no need for a bait and switch. This is a central character. She's not going to change. So,
but there was a bait and switch. I mean, the reality was they were bait and switched. You know, Ms. Alonso, I'm sure, got the woke version of the show that she wanted, right? And then she, I'm not gonna do this. Go fix the whole damn show, right? I'm not gonna do it, right? And I think she was like, all right, boss. You know, I think she was bait and switched. I thought she got what she wanted out of this, right? And then they wouldn't release it.
Now, I know you've probably heard me say this, by the way, and I kind of corrected my way of thinking. I've always been saying that Phase 4 was Kevin Feige shit in the bed. But the fact is Kevin Feige's just doing his job. The person that's shitting the bed and throwing the shit on Kevin Feige is Victoria Alonso. She is the wokest person at Marvel / Disney. And she's the one that's been derailing everything that Feige's been setting up, because when we go back to how he started this, it was pretty straight and narrow right down there. There was a little bit of woke to it, but it really felt comfortable to every fan.
Yeah.
Whereas after she really threw her power in, it changed. The dynamic changed.
And I think Ms. Alonso's time is ending. And I've said this on our show, I've said this on our Friends on Midnight's Edge. I've said this on my Patreon. You know, I think when Peter Rice was released from Disney in a very humiliating fashion, or he was sort of the ideological head of this kind of stuff, right? Behind the scenes. Ms. Alonso had felt very secure with a man like that she thought was going to be Chapek's successor, perhaps sooner than other people. You know, she thought he was coming to overthrow him, right? And then in that time, if you remember, during all this drama around the Florida legislation stuff, not only did there two things happen that I wrote about on my Patreon. One is Peter Rice put out his own press release saying, I think Disney's on the wrong track with this, which is like criticizing the boss in your own press release. You're out, buddy. You're out.
Yeah.
I was on that.
Yeah.
But she also did it. People don't realize it. She did. It was covered in the trades. And I wrote about it on my Patreon. Ms. Alonso was getting some award or something, and then she made a public attack and named Chapek by name in the attack. At least Rice didn't.
I don't remember this. Keith, did you know this?
Yeah, I think I remember. I remember seeing that video footage. She just went off. It was like
she signed her own death warrant.
She became another person.
She named the boss.
Yeah.
So she's done. Her day is coming rapidly. With Peter Rice gone and Chapek getting 3 years, Rice was a threat to him. This is a pissant. But this is a pissant that publicly questioned him in front of Hollywood by name. That's not something he's going to forget. I wouldn't forget.
I wasn't even aware. I need to go check this out after the show.
Yeah. Go look up Alonso's comments. It was shocking. I was like, that's the first rule of power in the 48 rules of power is never outshine the boss. I mean, even Rice didn't name the boss. He just he's on the wrong track. She named the boss.
She felt way too comfortable.
By the way, Cameron, going over to a different studio just for a second.
Yeah.
Mikey Sutton, you know who Mikey is, right?
Yes. He's a friend of mine on Facebook. Really
Mikey's a friend of mine, and Keith, we talk to him like every day. And I cracked Mikey up when I said this, that I think it was not Variety, but Deadline wrote the first article about what's his name, Zaslav, saying that they're looking for someone to run DC. And I laughed. I said, he hasn't even been fired yet, man. This is like, he's sitting in his own office right now. Hamad is sitting in his office reading his own fucking, obituary. And he doesn't even get mentioned in his own obituary.
Well, because Zaslav is Genghis Khan, basically.
God, he's ridiculous. It's so fucking awesome.
Well, Chapek is like Count Richelieu from the Three Musketeers. Right? he's this Machiavellian dude. Cardinal Richelieu, right? He's Cardinal that guy, Richelieu, right? Yeah, Cardinal Richelieu. He's that guy, right? But Zaslav is Genghis Khan. He's an entrepreneur who doesn't give a damn about anybody, right? Chapek knows how to play. Zaslav just comes in and knocks across all the pieces off the board. He don't care because he can't, because he doesn't answer to anyone, whereas Chapek does, and so he's got to game everything. But going back to Ms. Marvel, so that ties us back in. So he did something here, which I think is special and different. And we will, there will be critiques. We can critique the show here. But what he did was, and he's not doing with anything else, he showed us that a family-friendly show is possible under Disney again. He showed us that. He showed us that even these wokies, it can be taken away from them. But what he's also going to, in my opinion, there's a two-pronged to that strategy. Show us what is possible, and then show us what these idiots are still doing. So I think, for example, Ironheart's not going to work. I don't have any agenda for Ironheart to fail. I would love it to be a good show that I can enjoy, but I don't think it will be. I think that, he's going to let it fail on purpose, right? To say, look, this is what I'm offering you, the right hand, and this is what the left hand is offering you. What do you want? You have to have both to show people.
No,
here's a solution.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I did, and somebody commented about it in the chat that this is actually a religious family that's religiously conservative.
Yeah,
and
it's there's no sexualization. Imagine teens right now are all on TikTok. This is a chick that she doesn't even have a kiss on the show, right? There's a brief moment where she could kiss somebody in the finale, and they don't do it, right? Because in Pakistani culture is very sexually conservative, right? You do all that stuff in private, husband and wife. You don't, my sister we talked about this, my sister who's a lefty political professor, at Penn State, right? She's there, but at home she's a conservative. My Pakistani 18-year-old niece ain't going on no date, right? That's not happening, right?
Right.
This is very 1950s value system that this community still has, and they showed that, and they showed they're still normal. They're not weirdos. They're just. You've got and that's actually a value system that no one's really promoting nowadays, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100%
that is
agree.
Nice.
And once again, going back to the show, because despite my odd feelings, I really found it a good story. I like the character so much. I enjoy that brother is freaking awesome.
But they improved the brother. You see, from what I know of the comic, and people have shown me, I haven't read the comic, but people always send me, take a look at this, take a look at that. So I've seen it. The brother was in the comic a bit of a religious fanatic, and he's like a loudmouth, preachy guy. And he's
former goth. I love that scene.
Exactly. But the version that they did on the show is, he's sort of like, he is that former goth that found religion, but that's not the defining thing about him. He's a really loving brother, which wasn't my understanding of the comic. The dynamic he has with her, with his younger sister, is the exact dynamic I have with my younger sister. And it felt real.
And that's the way I think they had Miles Morales. That's the reason why I think in doing what they've done with this particular character,
Mm-hmm.
they've single-handedly brought forth a character that was one way in the comic, improved upon it, but I think at the same time have actually, at least as far as Victoria Alonso is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
kind of shut the door on that particular character of Miles Morales because, again, Sony has that character technically.
But now you got to need somebody to cover that market for people. But I want to respond to CJ Batman, and I want to thank him for his comment. But I think that this show was actually a turnoff for the woke fans. I'm just looking at the commentary. I'm seeing the commentary. A lot of the sort of more lefty types are disappointed that it isn't a political show because the comic was.
They want everything to be activist oriented.
Correct. And they took that away from them. Whereas all the commentary I'm getting is, oh, I watched this with my grandma. I watched this with my kid. This was emotional. This was funny. That's not what they want people doing, bonding over popcorn at home. They want them out there fighting the battle, fighting the man. Mm-hmm. So this pulled the plug out of these people.
I want to point out one scene in particular that got me emotional. And I think that it's the soldier in me that combat medic. Yeah. When she tries to save the little boy outside the mosque. Yeah. And almost kills him in the process.
Yeah, almost kills herself and him. She doesn't know what she's doing yet, right? And
and
it's a very scary scene because she doesn't know what her powers are.
When he makes it down and her turning her back to run was a very emotional moment. Mm-hmm. Because it hit some chords with me because my family used to refer to me as the Lone Ranger because I've been first responder on a lot of fucking bad things. Wow. And I would just do whatever I had to do and I'd leave.
Yeah, because you don't want to participate in the emotional family.
One person thought it was over the ego thing because I didn't want to be known and all that stuff. I said, no, really it was because I didn't want to get sued later because I was afraid I'd get in trouble for what I did.
People can always say you didn't do this right. You broke his you broke his leg.
I was a paramedic, first responder, and it's like, man, even though I knew I did the right thing, there's that thing in me that says, go now, you're not needed anymore, go. And I got this throbbing in my chest because it wells up. I used to refer to that as the toy robot from when we were kids that would walk, its chest would open, the laser cannons would throw out sparks and then close up. I said that feeling I get feels like that robot when its chest opens up and wants to shoot out all that passion and love.
But it's emotional for all of us, those of us who haven't had this experience you've had, because it is the loneliness of actually being a hero. She's fantasized her whole life to be a superhero, and then she can't actually be with.
And that was my only cringe. Her fucking love of Danvers. But
that's okay. But
I know it's so hard to get through though because I fucking hate her so much.
I don't. But and I want to keep that one here because I keep interrupting. But I want to say they again in the version we saw, they played it so that she's just a dumb fangirl. She doesn't even know what happened in that battle event. She's got it all wrong, right? She's like, and she punched out Thanos. That's not what happened. But the fact is, she's literally a fangirl living in a fantasy world who doesn't know this person, right? And so had they done it with her actually really knowing Danvers, then maybe the original version did. But now it's more like, oh, you didn't even see the movie. You don't know what happened, right? But you're going off the idea of her, which is part of her fantasy as a child that she matures out of. So Keith, I'm sorry. Please go on.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said. In fact, again, this shows why ultimately the formula that was used in the creation of the character Spider-Man, Peter Parker, has worked for so many different people in Hollywood. When you talk about Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and the reason why Joss Whedon was such a fan of Spider-Man and Peter Parker and used that as the basic formula for which to create that character and what he did with all of those characters in that entire universe, it works. Why even change it? That's what really got me, though, in comparison to, say, with the comic book version of Miss Marvel. Why would you need to change that so much? That's the reason why Miles works, because it's pretty much just a repeat of the same Peter Parker formula. And when you get it right, when you get it right, even DC got it right, in a sense, with Milestone, with Static, the character of Static. It's the same thing. When you use that formula correctly, It allows everyone to be a part of the story that you're telling and allows you to explore family issues weighed against the issues of actually becoming a hero. And usually in these types of stories, it's a young person's perception of what they believe to be a hero to be versus the reality.
Well,
Of
Shazam, also Shazam, I think did that brilliantly.
Yes.
Shazam is one of my favorite recent superhero movies, really underrated. Because it did it apps and it did diversity correctly and all that stuff. You just didn't care that there was this diverse group of people. One of the kids might even have been gay, and it didn't matter, right?
Didn't matter.
None of it mattered because they love these people so much. So that's what this worked. And Jerry, I think you haven't seen the final. The finale, in my opinion, is wonderful.
No, I've gotten up to episode 5, and I was going to watch the finale today, but we were so close from my morning show to the afternoon show, there was no time to watch it.
Well, the finale, the fun of the finale, I'm going to give you a spoiler here. The fun of the finale is, the whole thing of, will they ever find out who Peter Parker is? And the finale starts off with the revelation of who she is, and how the family reacts is so wonderful. It's so wonderful, right? It's very loving because it's not how you would think, because you've been shown as a conservative family that don't even want her to go out to Avenger Con, right? Which, by the way, is real, because when I laughed the first episode hilariously, because I remember when my sister and I, in the 80s in Brooklyn, had to have this complicated scheme as teenagers to sneak out of the home to go to our first Doctor Who convention, right?
Yeah.
And it was a complicated crap that we had to do because mom was like, where are you going? What are you doing? What it's all about? But how this family reacts to the revelation of her as Ms. Marvel is really heartfelt. And it really touched me.
I loved it all. I mean, the scenes where she goes back to visit her grandmother, all that stuff.
When she went back in time?
Yeah.
Well, no, all of it. I mean, when
grandmother today, yes.
Yeah, all of that stuff is phenomenal.
And she got to see her as a child, and that was wild.
Again, this is what good writing without any agenda should be. You should just present it. People are people. And when you present it correctly, and you write it correctly, and you allow all of us to just become a part of what you're doing rather than preaching at us through the material, this is what you can do. This is what you get.
By the way, Cameron, this one is funny because every week I do a show on Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
And
I love that show.
I'm horrified by that show.
Why? Why are you horrified?
There's nothing fake about it. It's all
because it's scary, because it's real.
It's real, and
these guys are like, well, what's happening? What's happening?
Every episode, there's either a UFO or a UAP, and it's like, what the fuck?
And it's something that's messing with them. It like infiltrates their systems, right?
Every test they try to do fails because something happens, and they say
because it's aware of the conscious thing that's happening there. Yes.
Yeah, and so I get freaked out by everything on that show because the implications. Because I've said for years, I wasn't going to watch it because I thought it was going to be, it's about the werewolf thing and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But in reality, they're talking about, all these things that have been seen may have been something caused by the magnetism radiation, mixture of microwaves to gamma radiation. And the heavy doses of magnetism can cause you to hallucinate. And I'm like, oh my God, they're explaining this. And it's all about conduits and potential extraterrestrial to dimensional.
Because I would suggest it's not hallucination. I would suggest what's happening is the electromagnetic fields are opening. They're opening interdimensional portals, which they talk about on the show, right? That there's a dimensional doorway opening here to other realities, and that's what this place is. And that's why the gentleman was asking with the jinn in Islam are this interdimensional beings. Right, the genies, right, and they're part of the religion. We all believe they're real and they're part of our lives, but they live in a parallel shadow universe to ours. And
I like how they're using it in this.
Yeah, and that I think is a reality. So but that's an example. So that's something that we could have prejudged, but then we saw it. Right, it ends up being not what we expected, which is
I wasn't even aware of that, and then when they said it on the show, I'm like, holy shit, that's what she is. Oh wow, that is really cool. By the way, just so you know. We tried to warn everybody the show was an hour early today because Cameron has his Friday prayers. And
so I apologize to Facebook user, but I hope you'll watch the first part.
Yeah, it's Cameron's fault.
It is my fault. I asked them to push it an hour earlier, but I hope you'll watch the replay of the first 40 minutes that we've done so far. But yeah, it's I wanted to go back to what Keith was saying with regard to the family, to the grandmother, right? Because there's another element of the grandmother. There's there's one of the interesting family dynamics is a real dynamic that we all have it in our family, people that are estranged. So the grandmother and the mother apparently are estranged, right? They haven't talked to each other in years. And so finally they go back to Pakistan, to Karachi, which is where I was born. They go there and they're back with the grandmother's home. And there's some emotional stuff where you can see the mother and the grandma have a lot of stuff they can't say to each other that's hidden beneath, right? That's the pain that's there. But then there's a scene that really hit me because I'm watching the show with my mom. There's a scene that hit me where the grandmother, she's having difficulty walking. She's getting older. She's in a little bit of pain, arthritis. And then the mom sets aside whatever personal pain and issues she's got and says, Ami, which is Urdu for mom, Ami, maybe it's time for you to come live with us, right? And I'm taking care of my mom. I'm a 50-year-old guy. My mom stays with me, right? After my dad passed away 10 years ago, I take care of my mom. I'm not putting her in a home, right? And I'm sitting here watching this TV show with her, and it hit me very, very deeply. My mom and I argue all the time. We argue all the time. There's often very heated, but I take care of her. And that's a value system, that's an old value system that we've lost. The woke have been pushing it out. And in general, unfortunately, American secular culture has been pushing it out. And the idea of this, we need this back, that maybe you got to take care of your parents.
Yes.
That's an old American value. That's Little House on the Prairie where we lost it.
Yeah. Well, it's something that we used to do in this country a lot, mainly because we had to. Having people that would immigrate to this country, that'd be the first thing. Almost everyone would take care of their parents. And because of that, you had a lot closer family dynamics. Multiple generations, sometimes living within the same household, same block. And we had a better sense of self, not just, in the country, but in the cities. I mean, we had a better sense of self when we
There's
were
also
urban,
a
especially. It
better
preserved
sense of accountability too, which current
and
lacks.
community meant something more because everyone had the shared experience. Almost everyone in the blocks that would live around you would be someone that would have some of the same experiences as you had. We miss that. And I think we need to get back to that.
Yeah, and much of our social degradation that has happened in the last generation has been because of that breakdown. I was watching a movie which maybe I'll come back to a review for, because if you haven't seen it, it's my favorite movie this year, Elvis. I absolutely love Elvis. I've seen it now 3 times.
Oh yes,
I loved Elvis, and for many reasons. But one of the things that they talk, which Elvis, he was a family guy. He took care of his mama, took care of his grandma. When Elvis passed, his grandmother, she was still living with them, and she was one of the trustees of Graceland when he passed, right? And that's an old family guy. And they also show, and we the whole separate thing, they show how deeply, he was connected to the Black community of his time, right? He was one of them, right? Because he wasn't able to live with the rich white people. He had to live in the shanty town with the poor Black people in Mississippi, right? And as a result, he learned their music and their spirituality and their sense of family bond, right? Which is so pivotal. That whole thing of his experiences on Beale Street with the Black community, that's his family, right? And that's Elvis. That's the greatest icon of American history, right?
It's one of the best movies of the year.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love that.
because my only concern with it was, if Colonel Parker was going to be shown in a overly positive light. But from what I understand from Keith, it shows him as the shit he was. And
it shows him rationalizing himself that he was a hero, but it's not believable. It's a story he's telling himself, but you see he's not the guy.
He's the unreliable narrator, but who is obviously so. We know but we get to see Elvis, and I'm looking forward to finally getting to watch it. I haven't had a chance to.
Oh my God!
Because everybody I know has enjoyed it, and I'm like, I'm going to watch it.
You need to have a brand new sound system for this movie, because that was one of the things about this movie that just completely blew me away, was the sound. Not that I had never really paid attention to sound before, but this movie is obvious. Look, this year you had 2 movies that sound was an important part of the story, and one was Top Gun Maverick, and the other is Elvis. And if you do not have the proper sound system, you need to go out and get one before you see Elvis, because it is worth it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, it's I have to say I didn't know, I mean we all knew Elvis culturally because he's an icon. He's going to be an icon 300 years from now, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to change because he's the first superhero. And this channel talks about superheroes and comics. I mean, it's very real because I went and got a biography of Elvis. He very much was a Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel, right? Shazam. He was the fan of that. He was in comics. He was, and that would really get a sense of his imagination. That's in the movie as well. His love for comics that made him imagine himself to be a superhero, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't as familiar with his music. So this movie introduced me to his music and introduced me to the fact that his music were all covers of great black songs. I mean, it's all rhythm and blues songs. The black community, I mean, Hound Dog wasn't his thing. He took Hound Dog, right? And, all these things, Tutti Frutti wasn't his thing. That was Little Richard. And he brought it to the world. And then I went and got his 50 album, 50 Greatest Hits, whatever. I'm blasting it in my car all day. This stuff is great. His music is great. His music is great 45, 50, 60 years later. This is great music. I'm like, oh, I wish I had known Elvis's music before. Now I'm listening to it all the time.
My father's grandmother was a big fan, and I gained an appreciation of Elvis because of her. I found him to be just all of that and more, and his gospel albums that he would record showed a deep love and understanding of the spirituality of the black community, and how when he was a young man, much smaller boy really, how that was one of the things that helped to save him and his mother, and so it wasn't just an act with him, it was a part of who he was, and it became a part of the way that he would sing, and you could see that in everything that he did.
I actually went and got one of his. So I got his 50 Greatest Hits, and then I went and got his gospel album, and I was like, "Amazing Grace." I mean, this guy's belting it from the soul. Right? I mean, that's the only stuff he actually won Grammys for was his gospel work, because that was so him.
I mean, you're talking a performer that left it all out on the stage. And look, having been alive for a little bit before he passed away, I must say I was not very familiar with the circumstances of him performing and winding up in Vegas. And this movie covers all of that. Not to give anything away, but I now have a different understanding now when I see all his Vegas stuff. And it makes me kind of sad. It breaks your heart to see that stuff when you understand the context and understand how he thought of what Vegas was initially starting out to be versus what it became. And you think of the whole thing about...
And he was sacrificed to his own image. I mean, he was sacrificed. And going back to the whole superhero thing is that the character of the hero overwhelmed the reality of Batman overwhelms Bruce Wayne, right? So
he was Samson, basically. It's the story of Samson. And it's just... It's sad. It's sad that he had to... it just breaks your heart.
And because one of my favorite things with my dad, when he served at the same base there in Germany as Elvis, and was there while Elvis was there.
Wow. Well, that's a part of the movie. Yeah. The Germany stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was at Freiburg, I think is where it was in Germany. And my dad told me, he says, at one point he was approached by some of the guys. They said, "We'll pay you like an entire paycheck if you go beat the shit out of Elvis Presley." And he's like, "I'm not going to go do that. I like the guy." Well,
of course. I mean, I'm sure guys were always jealous of him. Guys were fans of him, but they were jealous of him because he literally got all the girls. They don't actually go. They show a little bit out in this movie. He did well with the ladies, but they do show the incredible effect he had on women. And think about it, this is the 1950s repressed. That opening scene, that scene where he's in the Louisiana hayride and he starts gyrating for the first time in public, and the women in the 1950s are like, I mean, they're basically having an orgasm, and the guys they're like, what the hell's happening here? I read in the book that after his first performance, guys came backstage to try to punch him because they're like, basically, you turned my wife on. I'm not gonna. What are you doing to my wife? And they tried to. He had this fist fights where people came backstage to hit him.
Yeah. I like that scene where you saw his parents even reacting to everything going on around them. They had no idea. And
by the way, here's a picture of Elvis at the same. This was taken around the same time. Here's Elvis over there.
Okay, here we go.
In Germany, same base, and there's my dad outside.
Wow! What an honor. Look at that.
I expect this film to do well come Academy
It
Award
came
time.
out really early for the Oscars, but I think it's gonna sweep.
No, it'll sweep. I think Austin deserves best actor. I
Oh,
haven't seen
jeez.
I haven't seen a performance like this where he's actually embodying. I forgot that it was an actor. I thought it was Elvis, right? And the only other time I've seen that was when Denzel Washington plays Malcolm X. It was
I was gonna
Where
say,
you get lost in the character, and because this is something I've made fun of because I've worked for Tom Hanks, and he actually heard this joke that I made. I said Tom Hanks can only be two characters, one Forrest Gump, two Tom Hanks. And that's all he.
And in this case, he actually stretched himself. He's a really unlikable.
And that's what I'm really looking
character,
forward
and
to
he plays
see
it
him
well.
play a character like this.
Yeah, he actually stretched himself just like Austin did. Austin took another dimension. Austin is one of our great movie stars now. Austin Butler.
Austin gave an Academy Award performance. I heard that he contacted Remy Malek for some advice since Remy had won the Academy Award for playing Freddie Mercury. And I have to say, I like you, Cameron. I couldn't tell where he ended and Elvis began, and vice versa. There's a moment in this movie once you hit that point, and I'm thinking, for me, it was 15 minutes in. You forgot that it's an actor being Elvis. It's Elvis in front of you, and that is.
I mean,
wow.
it's a miracle. It's channeling. It's literally channeling. I'll share with you a story, and I do want to get back a little bit to Ms. Marvel, but I'll share with you this story. I heard this from Spike Lee himself. Spike Lee came and spoke just before the lockdowns. It's like end of 2019, early 2020. He spoke at the Egyptian Theater here to talk about sort of some of his movies, and I can't, of course, I'm a huge fan of Spike Lee, so I went to see it. And he spoke at the theater, and he talked about, because they were showing Malcolm X that night, and he talked about how Denzel Washington had, like Austin, had prepared for over a year. Right. He actually, Denzel Washington, he was a devout Christian, said, I'm going to become Malcolm. He stopped eating pork, stopped drinking. Right. He's like, I'm going to act and learn how to pray like a Muslim. I'm going to do these things. And he did that for a year. He said, I'm going to clean out my body so that I can let Malcolm in. So that he's like, okay, that's your process. Great. Let's do it. So he says his story of what happened, which I'm sure there were moments like this in Elvis, where Malcolm, where Denzel is giving one of Malcolm's famous speeches, like, the Plymouth Rock. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock landed on us. Those great speeches, right? And it's a famous speech. So it's scripted in, it's the original lines. And then he finishes the speech, and the filming and the audience is riled up. And then he's going to call cut when suddenly Denzel keeps going. He ad-libs for another 15 minutes of what the speech would have been had it continued, right? And so everyone's like, what do we do, boss? Spike's like, no, just keep filming. Just shut up and keep filming. Don't interrupt him. So they kept filming. And after he finally stopped, like he's drenched in sweat and passion, like Austin is his Elvis. And then after he's like, all right, cut. Then he goes to Spike says, I went up to him and I went to Denzel. Where the hell did you come up with that? I mean, he's like, what are you talking about? Denzel had no memory of those 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
The last thing he remembered doing was the end of the dialogue. He was channeling. He was like he was possessed. Malcolm came through him. That's what he said. He said, Spike says, that's the first time I've seen possession, where he had no memory of it. Malcolm spoke through him to finish the speech. And that's the kind of thing you get from Elvis, where Austin Butler is like, yeah, that's Elvis. That's not Austin Butler. Elvis is using Austin Butler to come alive again.
And the thing, because one of the things as a white guy that I've always admired about Malcolm X is that when he broke and went to, on his journey,
when he left
Haji,
he became normative Muslim,
to be a Haji, and he went over there and he met white Muslims, black Muslims, brown Muslims, Asian Muslims, and he was just floored, and it changed him.
Yeah.
And when he came back,
he said, I was wrong.
It's what got him killed. And it's sad. Because
that was the thing. It's when he renounced that sort of racial separatism that he was taken out by extremists in his own community. But now I'm going to tie this back into the family values, because what's powerful about Malcolm X, historically and in the movie that we saw, that a lot of people realize, he was a conservative, traditional, religious guy at every stage of his journey, at least when he found spirituality, right? After he came out of prison, right? He was an old school family man, right? He was a good father, and that's what he taught. He was teaching the black community. He's like, stay off of drugs, stay off of alcohol, stay off of welfare. Do not take these. They disempower you, and be a good father to your children. which is all the opposite of the messaging that was being given to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, even by the liberals, especially by the liberals, right? He would argue we're breaking the black family apart, and he represented that. There's an incredible moment there's two. There's the moment, the famous thing, people don't know the photo of him holding the rifle, right? They explain in the movie, that whole famous thing of Malcolm X holding the rifle in the window. That was because extremists had promised to come and kill his children. And the cops were like, not our problem, right? So he stood there over his children's crib, protecting them. That's the photo, right? That we don't understand. We're like, that's militancy. I was like, this guy is a father protecting his kids, right? And so that's what, tying it back to Ms. Marvel, because I do want to bring it back to this, is something that we have not seen in this generation is old school family values, right? Which is, and we haven't seen it on Disney. God damn it, we haven't seen it on Disney in a decade or more. And that's why this is such an important breakthrough. And that's why I'm so passionate that I'm coming back onto YouTube after I've taken a hiatus for a few months, right? Because I've got work to do. Because I was like, I gotta share this. And something you said, Jerry, that I want to talk about because it's important. You said it off screen. It's something that it's a phrase I've heard now a lot, that people were concerned that this show wasn't made for them. So I want to reframe that, okay? Remember who came up with that phrase? It was Brie Larson. This show isn't made for you. It was a divisive phrase that she used with contempt for all of us when we critiqued her stuff. She said, well, then the show's not made for you, white man, white middle class, it's made, and
right.
And we should, in my view, we shouldn't be using that language because art should be universal. And that's what the woke tried to take away from us. And then when we start adopting their paradigm, there's certain things aren't made for us. Had Ms. Marvel been just for Pakistani people or for teenage girls, then it's a failure. And I would suggest that the final version that was shown was universal and beat Brie Larson. Yes, Keith.
I'd also like to say that it also breaks with what Marvel Comics is about under Stan Lee. When you look at characters like Spider-Man, which I've been referencing a lot during this conversation, if you understand that character and what it took to make that character and what that character stands for, then that's in complete opposition to what Brie Larson was preaching, what she was talking about. That's anti-Marvel, really. Anti-Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics were for everybody, and especially for young people, but they were for everybody, and I think we kind of walked a little away from that, or at least have seen the MCU.
We walked quite a bit away from it. I mean, it has become divisive. When Ms. Larson said that, she thought she was in the cool club. She was giving us a lecture from the cool club. Well, the cool club's days are over, right? And this show is pointing us in a direction back, right? Is it a perfect show? No, because remember, it's a reshot show. So there's a lot of stuff in the original show. There's a lot of reshot stuff. They had to edit it, meld it together. I can see some of the cuts. I can see, that's a 2022 version right there, overlaid on the 2021 first half of the scene, right? And so there's moments you can tell that there was dialogue that then was re-dialogued. There's things where clearly they were trying to make a woke comment, and then someone else suddenly makes a comment to bring it back. Like, okay,
that's it.
But that's good. They're trying to fix this damn thing that they did to all of us.
Well, and also it's also in complete opposition to shows like, say, Batwoman. I mean, again, all of what we've been presented, the complete and utter corruption of our entertainment has been because you had people that were more activists than anything. They weren't about trying to entertain. They weren't trying to really entertain everyone. They were about dividing people and presenting us with some of the worst entertainment we've ever really seen. And when you have in your mind that you are trying to entertain everyone, when you keep that foremost here, and especially here, it makes it easier to create stuff like Miss Marvel or like classic entertainment, like classic Star Trek. It makes it easier to do all that stuff.
Well, and that's the Star Trek. What's amazing about Star Trek, what Roddenberry would be shocked by. Star Trek was all about Martin Luther King's vision, a world where we don't talk about skin color no more, right? That's what. And And then it got to this place where we're like, that's all we're gonna talk about. It's like we're all, we gotta get the disabled character, we gotta get the black.
Yeah.
Do it. He didn't talk about putting Uhura in there. She's just there.
Yes.
And she's good.
This is the thing that we do. Oh, I apologize. That is my reminder to do something.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, because it's the thing I talk about all the time is show us, don't tell us. Just show us.
Well, that's
You
what the
know?
Orville does. You know, what the Orville has done is at least just pulled back a little bit on a lot of the stuff that CBS Star Trek has gotten too crazy with, which is just about having characters. It isn't about showcasing and saying, hey, we have this character that fits whatever thing we want to put forward there. It's meant to just be really, hey, we have these characters. They're on an adventure and they're explorers and they're out to see the galaxy. That's the way it should be. Okay, and okay, don't get me started. I mean, I could.
No, but
Don't even
actually,
get me started.
The chat that you've put up here by Nathan Cheever, which is that yes, I think that unfortunately a lot of the Disney Plus shows had people that were treating it like a message thing rather, and not caring about fan expectations. And the original Ms. Marvel cut apparently was that, but the radical break is they decided, we're just gonna fix this. We're just gonna fix this. They didn't have to. They could have put it out and let it
can only lose money for so long, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, CBS has shown that they're willing to lose as much as possible.
Yeah, CBS and Paramount, they're fucking idiots. Now, don't get me wrong.
That's a company where nobody's in charge. You couldn't tell me who's in charge there. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what the corporate structure of Viacom is anymore. I have no idea. I don't know who's the boss.
Well, it's like they happily fall into stuff like, Top Gun Maverick. It's like they just stumble into stuff rather than plan it out, because anything they plan doesn't work.
Well, here's the thing about Top Gun Maverick. So I love the movie, great movie, right? Very enjoyable, right? I'm glad for it. I have and I've commented this before, and she was very amused. A Patreon member who brought this comment to me, and I brought it up on Midnight Chat. I didn't name her. I won't name her here as well. She's like, "Oh, thanks for bringing me up." But so she is a Patreon member. She's a minority herself, and she wrote me that she enjoyed initially. She wrote me she enjoyed the Top Gun, but then her reaction was like, "Oh, here we go. We have this diverse." Air Force. We got these pilots, whatever, and you gotta have the Mexican, you gotta have the the Latina, you gotta have the black guys. And I said, well, I don't think that's messaging. I think that's just the reality of our military.
Yeah, it's very realistic.
Yeah, and then she's like, oh, what? You know what? You're right. She's like, well, my cousin's in the military, and I was like, yeah, and you're Filipino, right? And your cousin, so that they didn't comment on it. It's not crazy to have a Latina as an ace pilot, or to African American as an ace pilot. And no one's commenting on it. They're just a group of people, and they're all cocky jerks. And he humbles them, right? That's great. But the point is, that's the concern I have going back to this idea of letting the woke control our narrative. She herself then wrote me, said, you know what? Oh my God, I'm using their narrative. I'm looking at Top Gun through their lens of race. I bought into it. That's like, we got to get it out.
Yeah. You got to learn how to rethink shit. Let's see. Commander Ed Stryker says Marvel ran away from the general audience comics to far left weirdo town. Ms. Marvel is a massive turn back to the center. I agree.
Yeah.
I surprisingly I enjoyed this show. I really did, and I'm looking forward to, after we do our show today, while you're doing your prayers, I'll be watching Ms. Marvel's finale.
And I think you'll like it. I think the finale.
I'm enjoying it.
Well, the show has all these different elements. Every episode, some episodes are more family comedy. Other episodes are very emotional, like the partition stuff, very emotional for me. And then other stuff is just cool superhero action.
I think that there's a lacking of that. My one complaint is there's a lacking of that. Even with the action scenes, I think weren't very good.
That's fair.
I think because I'm a very action-oriented person. I like Dale Dye. You know who he is, right?
I don't know Gale. Who's
Dale Dye is the military advisor, technical military advisor. He directed all the combat scenes for Saving Private Ryan. Okay. He's my boss. And he read one of my combat scripts. He goes, I got to tell you, son, you really know how to write a fight scene. I said it's what my brain knows how to write, because of my military upbringing and tactical stuff I've learned throughout my life. I love writing individual combat or combat. And one of the graphic novels I did, which is the telling of the fall of the English Empire in 1066, which I told the story of the battle at
Hastings.
No, just before it, actually 2 weeks before it, they fought King Harold Hardrada, the last king, Viking king, and they killed him the same way that King Harold of England would die, with an arrow. Mm-hmm. And he had to march his men for 2 weeks, and they were exhausted. He was out of funding, so they were starving. So they started falling off and leaving. And by the time he got to Hastings, his army wasn't as strong as it was when it went up against
it's the same tactic they did with Saladin did with Kingdom of Jerusalem. When Saladin fought the Crusaders, he basically burned them out in the desert. Made sure they were dehydrated and they didn't have water, and then he took them out. Right, and
weakened them. Yeah, absolutely, and also breaks their morale. And so the same thing happened there. And but when I love historical stuff, and in the end, I got no credit for it, but I wrote all the battle scenes for the book.
Wow.
Because the guy who wrote it is a history teacher, but he doesn't understand military tactics and how things work. And I said, I'll fix it. Hey, Polly is here.
Polly's here. And
my good friend.
And people also should check out the lengthy, scene by scene breakdown that I did with Polly yesterday of Ms. Marvel. So if you want to see that, but bringing it back to Ms. Marvel, Keith, I wanted to get your perspective. You've seen the final episode. Do you agree with me that the action ramps up to Marvel level in the final episode, or do you have critiques?
Yeah. I think it's appropriate for the kind of series that this is. Okay. I think the entire show, I think every show has its own way of presenting action, that the action should be appropriate for the type of show that it is. Mm-hmm. Okay. While it would be easy to, for instance, if this were a comic like, say, Spider-Man, the action scenes that you would have in a Spider-Man comic should be for that comic. And you're not trying to make something like, say, finale of Civil War or something, because that's a whole different type of comic. Even though Spider-Man's
a different
part
scale,
of it.
A different situation.
And so it's a very appropriate. Again, I got Buffy vibes. I got classic Spider-Man vibes. If they continue to treat this in season 2 and all seasons beyond like this is only going to get better. I would hope that all the rest of the Disney Plus shows that they have coming would be treated this well, but something tells me that it'll only really just be this for now.
And I think it's on purpose by Chapek. Like I said, he's gonna let some of the things, like with Ironheart, I think he wants to teach Kevin a lesson, and I think he's gonna let that play out. I think Ms. Alonso is not long for her tenure, and that's gonna impact any future continuation of Ms. Marvel and other shows. I think Sana Amanat, who's there, who I think may also be moving along, and so I think. We don't know if there's going to be a continuation of the show. I hope there's a second season, but I will say this: I had no interest in watching the Marvels movie. I will now watch it for Iman Vellani, because she's such a wonderful actress. I didn't give a damn about watching Brie Larson, right? But she's going to outshine her. That's going to be the thing. Put those two together in a movie. I mean, I know what I'm going to be looking at.
You're right. You are so right. Again. If anyone out there happens to be working in the business outside of Cameron, you got to understand, the people behind Batwoman should have been paying attention to something like this. If they had actually stuck closer to the Batwoman comics, that would have been a much better show. They didn't. They went the way they went. They went as woke as they could go, and it ruined it and became probably the second worst show on television outside of Star Trek Discovery.
And it damaged Greg Berlanti's brand.
Yeah.
He was invincible until this show, right? Oh. And then a lot of it, it's like Greg was very good at understanding how to do, at least the early seasons of Arrow and, all that stuff in Flash were pretty good. But this is the end result of
when he lost his mind with identity politics. And I disagree with you on this one, Fat Steven. Steven Seagal is in the chat. Okay. I disagree with you on this one. It is nothing like the CW. The CW writes fake drama, faux drama. They create drama. That's true. They force drama where drama wouldn't exist in real life. Whereas this show has drama happening in the right ways.
Yeah, it's a real interaction. There's real dynamics. I mean, this is exactly.
It's
this
very
is exactly
organic.
what happened. My niece got superpowers, and my sister's like, "No, you can't go out. You can't wear that skimpy costume." It's exactly what would happen. So,
well, exactly, and but I do agree with you, Stephen, on the 6th episode. I think that shows should be a minimum of 13 episodes. I prefer still the old school 22 to above. I mean, when we were kids, what were they? 30 some? You could get over 30 episodes a season of a show.
Yeah, 30, some 33. But I mean, look, I don't mind getting, you know, I believe in quality overall. If you can only give me 6 to 7 quality episodes a season, fine. Give me 6, 7 quality episodes. Because if that means that episode 8 is going to fall off dramatically in quality, I'd rather not have that.
So we see this not as a limited series, but as a mini series, and it can have multiple seasons.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
But, again, if I may, I'm going to interject here from a writer's perspective. For 20 years now, I started off in the business when 22 episodes or so were the norm, right? That was network television. Right. Then eventually, as cable started really in the 20 years that I've been there, cable, TNT, all these places took off, it became 13 episode orders on cable, right? Then in the last few years, it became 10 episode orders. And then very recently, it's become 6 to 8. And that not only affects storytelling, it also affects my bottom line. Because making 22 episodes a year, you know, producers on a network drama making 22 episodes a year are making $700,000-$800,000, right? You know, 6 episodes, you're making a very small fraction of that, right? And so suddenly the biggest problem writers have right now is they're jumping from gig to gig. Before you'd get a job that would last you through a year, and the savings from that might last you through another year, right? Now you're like, I got to get at least 2 shows a year to get by, because there's so few orders, and you know, I got to pay my bills, and so that's affecting us. And that, as a result, you've got stressed writers who are actually dealing with economics of the small order, and now they've got to ram the story in. I think I agree with Paulie, our friend here. I think some of these can work. I think Ms. Marvel pulled it off in 6 episodes. I think it worked. I think the episode built properly. I think Hawkeye didn't pull it off in 6 episodes. I think it needed more, right? Yeah. I think Moon Knight needed more, right? And so those felt rammed in and crammed in, and I totally agree. Unfortunately, the system is solidifying around 6 episodes for Disney, which is the most conservative. Most cable is now getting to 8 episodes. The show that I'm currently developing, that I mentioned that I cannot tell the details on, but currently a show I'm developing with a major network. It's a cable network. Initially, that network would do 10 to 12 episode orders. So when I got my thing, I was like, "Hey, so we're doing 10?" They're like, "No, we're probably gonna do 8." I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll make it work in 8. You know, I got to restructure the plan I have for the show, but now I got to make it work in 8. Right? That's a new reality that all of us are dealing with.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's amazing all the times that we've talked to you, Cameron. I actually really like you now.
Oh, thank you. I'll take it. And I can tell that you have very high standards. I can tell who has even higher standards, Keith, because he tolerates you.
Keith really does.
He's a good friend of yours, despite you embarrassing him. Every single episode I ever watched the show, I see Keith do this. Every single episode, you will say the wrong thing, and God bless you.
And I always say the wrong thing on purpose just to get him to do that. I don't know
about that, my brother. I think you just on automatic.
Well, I have a filter. Just so you know, I really do have a filter. I just have this thing. I'm very quick. And then I think, should I say that? Fuck it. Go ahead. It's really the guy on my shoulder says, yeah, go ahead. Fuck it.
Yeah. You know, that's the devil. That's not the angel side. And that's not the angel side. By the way, here's a little cultural thing you don't know. This concept of angels or whatever and devils on your shoulder, that's out of Islam. Because when we end our prayers, if you've ever seen Muslim prayers, you always saw the people bowing down with their head to the floor ground. Right. But you end the prayer by you turn to your right and you turn to your left and you say, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. You're greeting your guardian angels. So the concept of the angel sitting on your shoulder was an Islamic imagery that the Crusaders then brought to Europe. And it became part of Western iconography, but it was very specifically out of the Islamic prayer that believed the angels are sitting there recording your deeds, right? And so it's interesting, but this is the example of cultural fluidity. That's why there's no such thing as cultural appropriation. All culture is appropriation. Everything is coming from somewhere else, and that's a good thing. It's all water. It's flowing.
Thank you for bringing that. Thank you for saying that. See, I learn something every single time you come on. I would like to thank you, Cameron, for doing that. You're not only a great writer and a good person to know, you are an excellent teacher.
Well,
You know,
so thank you. I personally, I prefer to be a rock star. Watching Elvis, right? Watching Elvis, all those girls screaming and going crazy. And you're like, man, what is this screenwriter in the background crap? I mean, we're not going to be on stage, right? But that's the example of cultural appropriation. And what's upset me is that as I posted positive reviews of Elvis on social media, some of the young wokies were like, I heard Elvis was a racist. He stole all the black people's music. I was like, what? First of all, he grew up with black people, poor black people, and their music was his life. Mm-hmm. And he credited them from the beginning. I found an article, 1957 Jet Magazine. This white guy is talking to Jet Magazine, 1950. Elvis gave an interview saying, I'm not the king of rock and roll. Fats Domino is the king of rock and roll. He said rock and roll was invented, he called them the Negro community. That was terminology at the time, but it was invented by that community. And he said, they've been the masters of it. I'm just coming along. And now you're all listening to it. He never appropriated. He knew where he came from and he credited it where it came from. And as a result, he advanced all of them. Like Little Richard, writing Tutti Frutti, right? Little Richard, he does it. He's not a big star. Elvis does it. Worldwide hit, and suddenly Little Richard is a songwriter that making a lot of money, right?
Yeah, there was a black author that spoke yesterday who said that he took black music and exposed it to the world.
To the world.
Instead of just
he did the one thing that no one's ever done. 400 years of white-black relationship on this continent. No one was able to bridge the cultures that developed. No one wanted to. No one tried. If they did, they hit it, right?
Yeah.
He embraced it. And I would argue, I'm going to make a very radical argument here, but I think it's true. Had Elvis not been Elvis, had Elvis not done this cultural appropriation, the civil rights era of the 60s would have been even more painful. It would have been even more divisive. It would have been even more violent, right? It would have ripped this country apart even more than it did because he, 5 years, created a bridge of cultural understanding between these communities. He, black people show up and violate the segregation laws at his concerts, which would cause the police to freak out. But white people are like, oh, I guess I'm dancing next to a black person now. Okay, the world didn't end.
And I have to say that for me personally, I just think that for someone that had the kind of background growing up that he did, it wasn't just that it was just black music. This was just music to him. That's the amazing thing about it. It was just music to him. It's what he literally grew up with.
Yeah.
And if you really understood what everything was like back then, I mean, you had poor, but then you had dirt poor, next to nothing. Yeah. And he and his mom had that. They were there. Okay.
They were living in shantytown. I mean, their dad's in jail for passing a bad check. I mean, the white people didn't want to be around them. Send them over there. We don't want them in this part of the town.
Yeah. And so, yeah, he did exactly what he needed to do at the time that he needed to do it, which is the reason why for the soundtrack of the movie, why Eminem has a song on there.
Yep.
And
he's an example of a wonderful bridge of cultures.
Yeah. That's the thing about having, the kind of movies that you're getting from this particular director. He likes bringing in newer artists to help reinterpret some of that music. But unlike a lot of the other soundtracks, he tries to mix in Elvis Presley with a lot of newer acts so that he could get a lot of young people to truly understand what Elvis did and what he was about.
What Elvis would do. They showed in the movie that he brought young female African American singers onto the stage with him on Vegas. He's like, we got to have the Sweet Temptations with us, right? He's exposing them and creating their careers. And on the music of this movie, what some people have often criticized Lorman for is that he brings modern music into period pieces, right? And how are you going to do it here? And he did it perfectly here because you do have hip hop and rap in this movie. But what it is, it's background music to Beale Street. As you get the vibe of what Beale Street was like in the 1950s, right? In Memphis. You get that from that sense of the African-American modern rap music. It's just in the background. but it vibes you, and that's all you needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It
old
works.
school Sun Records, man. That's all I gotta say.
I'm glad I went to visit Sun Records because
Oh, you went there?
oh yeah, I went there on my honeymoon, and
Oh,
I
wow.
was amazed at how small that place.
Yeah, they
was.
fucked
Yeah,
right
it's
in
like
the
a
old
little-
studio.
Really?
well, but it's great you're telling me, because I was actually with our friend Mexican Iron Man, right? I was talking to him that I'd love to do like a trip, because this movie's inspired me. I want to go see Graceland. I want to go to Memphis. I want to go to Beale Street. I want to go to Sun Studios. And I started looking up these places, and then the original Sun Studios is there. It's a landmark now. And it's basically just a little room.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
We started there.
Oh, it's
We were
tiny.
there the
And I've been
day
there
after
too, by
Jerry
the
Lee
way,
Lewis
Keith.
was recording in there.
Wow.
He had come through to record something the day before I was there. So I'd missed him by 24 hours. And that was just, yeah, it's a much smaller room than I'm a big guy, I know. But I mean, I was amazed at how small that room was.
Yeah, and Elvis made his first, that's all right, Mama, in there with just a couple of guys.
That's
Right.
right.
That's all they could fit in there.
But just so you know, I've been there as well. I grew up in the South, and despite having no accent, it's weird. Like all my friends talk like this, and here I am neutral. I'm like, I don't know what to say.
Well, gentlemen, I need to start winding down in a few minutes. So it's
Yeah, because you need to go, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going
you
for
guys
another
keep going.
half hour.
I've got about 9 minutes or so. I got to take off at 12:30 my time to get ready. But so I mean, I just want to clear up Ms. Marvel. I would suggest those who are cautious of it, understandably cautious, based on the history of this comic, based on the garbage we've all endured, based on the garbage we've endured through Ms. Alonso and other characters. I understand you're cautious about it, but I would urge you to take a risk and watch it, because I think it will show you something that gives us hope for the future. And the fact that it was a troubled production that had to be reshot essentially from scratch means that Bob Chapek is willing to do that. And that says something about how much he's invested in the long term of the success of Disney and returning it to a family brand. And and the great thing what Disney used to represent is you could have a movie like Moana, but it's Hawaiian people, but it's about everybody, right? It's about everybody. You can have Mulan. It's about a Chinese girl, but it's about everybody, right? And this Ms. Marvel is about a Pakistani girl, but it's about everybody, right? And so that's where we got to get more of this storytelling, and he's showing us it is possible.
It's possible to see yourself in everything. Well-told stories, good characters, great family balance. I shake my head every time I hear someone say that I can't watch this because I don't identify. I don't see myself with it. You don't have to see yourself. I mean, if good storytelling, you'll be able to see yourself and other things within it. To me, that's just BS.
And this is leading, and it's actually very helpful that it was Ms. Marvel that did this, because it shut the Wokosos down. Because they were pushing this as, look, we got the brown girl, right? We got this wokey comic, right? This is going to be our moment, right? And they got co-opted, and it became something else, right? And now their steam is out, like they blew their wad, and now they got nowhere to go, right? And so that's a wonderful sleight of hand that could be done on them. Because what are they going to say if the Wokosos start criticizing it now? They're like, "Are you Islamophobic? Are you anti-Pakistani? Are you anti-girl?" And that's always been the great thing I as a Muslim can say. We've been used by the Wokosos in the last decade as sort of identity politics things. Like you'll always see like resist posters with a woman in a hijab. I'm like, I was like, you do realize we're a conservative traditional culture that isn't into the gender pronouns, all this other crap that's going on right now. We ain't on board with that. We're a lot like Latino culture, right? Which now people are waking up to the fact that it's a conservative traditional religious culture. Politics like, wait a minute. These taco eating people, they actually care about God and have strong issues about abortion and stuff like that. Like, what? We just thought they were, because they were racist. Like we just thought these going to be a bunch of brownies we're going to bring over the border and they're going to vote for us, right? They thought the same thing for the Muslim community, right? And and again, we get characters like Ilhan Omar and others that the press talks about, but they're not actually reflective. If you actually see the internal conversation of Muslims going, Ilhan Omar, oh my God, she said that. Oh my God, she's jumping up and down at the Pride Parade. I don't know if the imam likes that, right? And so, it's the conversation, the community is disconnected from the conversation the woke are having about us. And so as a result, We are their sword, because whenever a Wokoso comes at me, are you Islamophobic? I guess you're Islamophobic. They don't know what to say to that. They don't know what to say to that. It takes out energy, because it's the kind of identity sword used on other people.
They hate it when their own language is thrown back at them.
Yeah,
it's like Latino saying, I guess you're anti-Latino. What? Because
the
truth is, they're all racists. They're all racists who see everybody as pawns in their chess game.
Before Cameron goes, may I ask a question? First of all, hey, Cameron, how you doing? Hello, chat. Nice to see you. Yes, I popped in. I'm sorry, I'm not a female yet. I'm still working on that because I know you like females on the stream. But from the last time,
just get the tits, man. That's all I said.
I have two of them, and both of them are named Gary. But what I wanted to say before is the last time we actually talked.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. There you go. But what was I? Just keep looking at them. They're good. They're real. On paper. But the last time we actually met and talked, Cameron, you were actually, this was before the series actually came out, and you were actually very excited, as well as a bunch of other people you've talked to that are from this religion. I keep messing up. Is it Islam or Muslim?
Islam is a religion. Muslim is a practitioner.
Okay. However, they were doing about it, and there was a lot of
debate. I
explained
it to him previously, and he forgot.
I don't listen to you. It's okay. I listen to keep people
distracted by your own boots. I get it.
Yeah, but you were very excited, as well as other people you talked to, about this, because it was a different approach, and not only introducing the religion, this family aesthetic, as well as the debate around whether magic was accepted within this, because it depended also on the practice and I believe the sect. I hope I'm using the right words in this. So,
well, no, but we talk about it. Magic, is acknowledged in Islam. The Quran talks about it. It's called sihr. Right? And it's part of the cultural understanding of magic. That's what, we have these genies as part of our culture, right? And so
jinn.
Jinn.
Okay, so from that conversation, and now that the series has ended, are you pleased as from the hopes you were hoping for from this?
There were so many moments that they could have taken this the wrong way. A perfect example. They have the moment where some people in the trailer are like, I don't know, they got to show a print of the mosque is pandering, right? So they have the scene of the mosque. And there's a couple of things which are annoying to Wokosos, right? First of all, pretty much nearly all mosques in the world are sexually segregated. Men and women pray separately, right? That's not something that the woke like, right? Because men and women should be all together and everything. But they're segregated, and they don't critique that in the show. Right? What they do is, because they could have had, she's got a character, best friend Nakia, who's a little bit of a political character, but is actually not as much, I think, as in the comics. And so she starts grumbling at the imam, and you think it's going to be like, well, why do we have to pray separately? Does that make us inferior to men? That's not what she's intended.
Is that to keep away distraction?
It's primarily to desexualize the energy of the house of worship.
That makes sense.
Because I have a friend of mine invited me to his evangelical church in Seattle. I went to it, and I was like,
then the other question,
they all got the midriff bare. I won't focus on what the sermon was, because it was a bit of a meat market, right? And that can happen, or people are there to meet a boyfriend or girlfriend.
So it also creates focus. So then the delivery of the female agent in charge, who was nonviolent, yet we would see the way she was acting with the little microaggressions. Her portrayal of coming in, not only not taking her shoes off, but coming into the male area first, or this was after session, was that treated as her not being respectful of their mosque, their religion? And is that what they're trying to also slide under there as like a slide message going, you might say you care about us, but you're showing disrespect at the same time, so you're a hypocrite?
Correct. And exactly. And it's interesting, they had a female sort of, empowered female who's the head of this sort of villainous government squad that's after these people. But the way they shot it is they walk in and you see first on her high-heeled shoes walking the carpet. In Islam, you take off your shoes when you enter a mosque, right? It's the same thing out of the story in Moses in the Bible where when Moses first comes burning bush, first thing God says to him, burning bush, take off your shoes, right? Take off your sandals because you're on holy ground. So that's a very Middle Eastern ancient biblical tradition. And they talk about that. That's an act of disrespect that she's doing that. And federal agents actually know if they enter a mosque to take off their shoes. They're trained with that, right? FBI agents know that. And so she did that on purpose. But going back to what I was saying about Nakia and the sexual segregation, the character gets into an argument with the imam, not about the fact that they're sexually segregated, it's the fact that the female section wasn't as well maintained as the male section. That's a real conversation that women have at mosques. Right. And one of the mosques here in Southern California resolved women's complaints that they weren't being treated well in the feminine section. By now, the women get the larger room and they come in through the main door. The guys have to go in the back. Right. That was how they resolved it internally in the community, to make sure the women felt respected, because the women raised the issue. Right. That's a real thing. But it wasn't about you're oppressing me. Why do I have to pray something? Because also remember the way the prayer is. If you've seen Islamic prayer, they showed in the show, people bow, they kneel. And when a woman does that, she's got her ass in the air and her breasts hanging down. The man is standing behind her. He's checking out her ass and breasts.
It takes away from the prayer. It takes away from the devotion, and
it's also it's degrading for a woman to have to kneel down with her ass in the air with a guy's nose behind her because the guy's bowing behind her. It's degrading, because it's just it's invasive for women, that physical posture. And so but the show could have, because there is a wokey element. It's like you gotta integrate the mosques, right? This is all sexism. And they've tried to. They've actually had like some wokey people show up at mosques, and women walk into the men's section just to do that. That's drama that the community doesn't like and doesn't support.
Yeah.
But they could have gone that way with the show. They didn't.
Yeah, I also love the fact of how when the agents kept coming back, they already pulled out their IDs, and I loved how they kept doing that. It's like because they're showing how it's been over the years in reality on how mosques are watched. They're always under scrutinization, so they're ready to go. It's like it's part of the religious thing, not as the actual religion, but just be prepared. This could happen at any time. It's like a fire drill at school. Yeah.
At every mosque, we know there's an FBI guy there, right?
Yeah.
And we also know he's wasting his time because the few people that are a real threat, they're not meeting the mosque for exactly that reason. They're meeting at the strip club. Like there's 911 guys who are meeting at strip clubs and porn stores, right? Yeah. We showed that on Sleeper Cell. Ain't gonna meet at the mosque. And so you're putting your resources in the wrong place, right? But they showed that on the show because that's a real thing. That's not pandering. I'm aware of that when I go to the mosque. I was at a mosque once in California, and there was some guy gave up and gave a sermon. He wasn't the regular imam. He was sort of guest sermon, young guy, and he gave a really radical sermon. And pretty much everyone were like, this guy's an FBI plant. This guy's an FBI plant. He's trying to find out who the troublemakers are who are going to listen to him, right? So and everyone basically wanted him off. They're like, everyone's like, get him out of here. Get him off the sermon stand because number one, he's saying crazy things. Number two is this is a setup, right? And that's a real thing you got to deal with in the house of worship, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Now I wanted to point something out before you go because it was my favorite moment in the entire series.
Is it the punch to Pakistan?
It's look, we're running out of time. Hold on.
Yeah, but I'll one last thing that I got.
Yeah. So basically, the scene where they're at that little carnival thing. Islamic carnival,
which was the holiday that just happened this past weekend. It's the holiday to the sacrifice of Abraham, where you sacrifice meat, animal, give the meat to the poor. That's the holiday.
Well, I love that Nakia, which I'm not sure is she a cousin or what she is in the story.
No, she's a friend. She's a friend. She's like
just
the character. I think is Turkish.
She confronts Yusuf, Kamala's dad, and tells him, "Yeah, you can support your friend, or you can support your daughter." In this time, and she just uses this great guilt thing,
emotional blackmail, right?
Completely, and it leaves him just stranded there, not knowing what to do when she walks away.
Because he's trying to be a good dad, and he's trying to also be like every Muslim guy knows. Everyone thinks we're sexist, so we got to be non-sexist.
I got to support my best friend, and the best friend's like, "Hey, Yusuf, we got to go," and he's like,
"Yeah." So, but that's the
great fucking moment.
Well, we laughed when I watched it with my mom, then I talked about it with my friends, and that's real. That's Islamic gatherings, which is we got balloons there, we got the kid running around, and then the moment in that scene where Nakia is identifying all the cliques, and you've got the Illuminantes, like the gossipy aunties that are sitting there talking about, oh, she's never gonna find a husband, right? Those are real. They're not even archetypes. I know all those people. I know all the characters, and we were
all the breakdown of the groups was funny.
And they're all silly, and none of them are plotting to blow up anything. They're just like, oh, you got to find a husband. Oh, did that white guy, did he convert? Why is he here? I mean, that's the silliness of it, right? And that's the humanity of it, which is we're all kind of silly. On a real level, we're all kind of silly, and that's what makes it likable, and that's what makes the show likable.
That's relatable.
God bless all of you. I got to take off. Please, everyone, stay here. Cameron. Everyone stay here, keep talking, and now you can talk smack about me because I'm gonna get out of here.
I just
Cameron.
It's all
that
good.
guy is so hot.
I don't want this dude with the fake boobs on. I want to next time hot chick.
For God's sakes,
thank you,
man.
Cameron.
Right,
thank
guys,
you very much.
We'll talk again.
Much
Peace,
success.
Peace, brother. God,
my boobs aren't good. My boobs aren't good enough. I'm sorry. I failed as a meme.
I agree with you, Paulie. I really, I enjoyed the show. My little problems with it, I stated right at the beginning. I felt like the action was weak.
Mhm.
It felt less of a superhero story, or even the origin of a superhero, and more just like a family comedy with superhero stuff thrown in. But still, I enjoyed it. It's solid writing.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's
Well,
solid writing,
it's all the things that all the other
and
Disney
it's not
Plus.
woke.
Yeah, it's all the things that all the other Disney Plus shows aren't. It's smart. It seemingly celebrates its
They-
characters, but it doesn't do that by sacrificing other characters or well-known characters to make the new characters better.
See, sorry, Keith. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to agree with you. I think that's where it comes down to. Disney is actually taking something they care about. Like that's it. What they did with Miss Marvel is the same thing what they've done with the Mandalorian. They are building a foundation without destroying legacy, and from that's why a lot of people are kind of iffy with the X-Men theme tune being played in there, because now they're introducing her as the mutant. She is the doorway to saying that mutants are now within the MCU, the Disney Plus series.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, the debate going on with Brie Larson, who really needs to eat a cheeseburger. It's okay. I'm gonna say this: she did not turn into Brie Larson. They're not the same person.
No.
They are wearing the Nega brands. I believe that's what's called for the Negaverse, the negative zone, right? Or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is it vibrated and they got transported to their alternate places. So wherever Captain Marvel was, that's where she is. Ms. Marvel.
That's right.
And this is the setup and segue into the Marvels, aka Captain Marvel 2, which will be Photon from WandaVision, Brie Larson, who needs a cheeseburger, and of course Ms. Marvel, which we got from the Disney Plus series. The thing that bothers me is you introduce the mutants by using Ms. Marvel because you care about this character. You're taking a chance. It supposedly came from Kevin Feige himself. He actually gave the go-ahead and the secret because he had this plan. This is what's going around. The problem is we also have the 90s cartoon of the continuation coming, right? We all know what's coming, right? And we've all seen the articles and how these people's values and stuff has been shown and how they're going to put real life to date events, however long ago till now, that comes out next year, into the series. So that could also cause a detriment to not only mutants and X-Men, it could also cause a detriment to the second season of Ms. Marvel if handled incorrectly. So I think Feige, if he's going to do this, there needs to be some like actual reins pulled on those people handling that cartoon, because that cartoon is technically, I guess, the next doorway into introducing mutants, not the Fox mutants, but the MCU style of mutants.
Yeah.
And if you insult that kid, that it brings a whole new type of angry fan towards her, it's going to cause a lot of problems down the road for what this show could be. Because Cameron looked happy, and I bet there's a lot more people up there that are just as happy.
Yeah, again, you're gonna have a problem as long as Victoria Alonso is there.
Oh God, she needs to go. Oh my God.
And I just believe that personally, I want to see her go, but not immediately. I do want to see her gone, but I don't need her to be available in case Zaslav looks her way and goes, "Hey, she might be." I don't need that.
I don't think that'll happen. No.
I don't need it. I just need her to be gone.
Just put her into the Discovery department, like in Discovery, away from DC, because just like there's your closet, Victoria.
I've got the perfect answer, because if everybody remembers their history, Captain Marvel died of cancer.
So did Jane Foster.
And we just simply make Carol Danvers the one that died of cancer, and everybody has a funeral for her.
But oh God!
She died off camera.
But her ass double survived.
I feel just awful drinking my juice.
See, I'll take a
Goodbye,
sip too.
Carol Danvers.
I went to, while you guys were doing this, I actually went to Campia, I went to Angry Joe USA, I went to IGN, and I watched all the finale and the series roundup reviews and how they took in this series. And there was a lot of things similar, and there's a lot of things not similar. A lot of things were focusing on how the 6-episode format is hurting Disney in a way, and the way they didn't handle enough on, I can't remember the words, the family. There was the daggers, the red daggers, but there was also the other one. What was the name?
I almost feel like that is, and by the way, you're trailing, Stephen, with your microphone.
I apologize. I didn't want to burp. That's why I moved back.
That's okay. But what I think is also one of the factors in this is budget, trying to keep the budget smaller, because Disney is feeling the tight pocketbook right now.
Well,
because of all their loss.
And also having to refilm the show. I mean, that gets expensive. You know,
It was the school scene, right? That's where they actually had to do reshoots, right? Non-violent and stuff like that, right?
actually, they had to do reshoots. I think, according to Cameron, of the entire show because it was written a different way and it wasn't working. It was very woke, and
Oh
so
shit.
they had to go back and refilm pretty much every episode. Apart, not completely, but I think you had to reshoot a lot of scenes. They had to change the tenor of certain scenes, and refocus it to make it more friendly towards the general audience rather than making it very woke, which I really do appreciate. And I wish they had done that same kind of thing with a lot of the other.
Kenobi.
Well, not just Kenobi, but I mean,
Sorry.
Hawkeye would have been
Oh my
better.
God.
Well, they did a
Yes.
whole bait and switch thing, and that's why I've been joking about She-Hulk in this show. Is at least with these shows, there'll be no bait and switch.
But there was attachments in this show that we're going to also probably see within She-Hulk. First of all, we saw the military unit.
Oh, look who's joined us! 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser.
How
How you doing, buddy?
The sonic weapons that we saw with the military unit brought in, they're there to disable and disarm, not kill. Those are also probably we're going to see within the She-Hulk series because those were also introduced with Edward Norton's when they had the sonic tank. Those are more of a handheld version. So yeah, I'm hoping so because Seagal is the thing is still hurting my brain and I can't focus on it.
I think ultimately, what I think we can get out of where they're probably going in the future is that you're definitely going to see a slightly different version of the Young Avengers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
they're not gonna try to do champions or anything. They're just gonna try to fold all these heroes into one particular group to make it easier.
But they also might just not do just young. They might just also branch off because we have agents of not Agents of Smash, but agents of the one that Wu is in the head of. That's it. That was it. The FBI agent or the Shield agent from WandaVision. He's in charge of that. Agents of oh my God, not Agents of Smash. It's the other one, but that one's coming back. There's a new series. But who had the comment about Rogue? You can't really have the powers be sucked up because Rogue is already a mutant. That's the thing. Rogue would have to be a mutant, and that would be a blonde Carol Danvers. If she does decide to take out Brie Larson, it would make sense. But her mutation in Ms. Marvel, the one we're seeing, came from the bracelets, and that what gave her the powers, which is part of the Nega brands. I keep almost saying it right. Because not normally, I think this is where they base most of the series off of the first graphic novel, I think from 2014. Yeah, Agents of Atlas. Thank you, yeah. I'm brain farting here. I'm sorry. I've been playing.
Hey, that happens. That happens.
Of Avengers, right? And I'm playing as.
Hey Nathan, check your private messaging over on Twitter. 32, you too. I sent you a private message.
I think.
I'm hold on a second, guys. Tight pocketbook. How much did it cost to make Daredevil versus Ms. Marvel or Kenobi? Well, I can tell you that Ms. Marvel had the smaller of the budgets of those three.
Daredevil was
when it started, but that they ended up reshooting so much. That's the only reason why it got more expensive.
But Daredevil was also funded by Netflix. Their budgets were probably different depending on how much was put in.
And they were throwing a lot of money into those shows.
Yeah. There was one more thing. Did you also hear? Because they're also trying to bring back, I think, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming back, but Ryan Gosling.
It'll be Agents of Atlas. Actually, Sox says it here, Agents of Atlas.
Quake is going to also be in one of the new movies or series as well, but supposedly Ryan Gosling has put interest into Marvel to be the next Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have, we were talking about that actor, so we're going to get a young Logan. So if they're actually going to bring in like Young Avengers, if they're going to bring in a young Logan, maybe that's how we're also going to get more X-Men.
Yeah, by the way, the only thing that comes close to woke that I find is dealing with her powers, that the power was already within you. We just needed to help you let it out. Okay. And that's kind of a woke mindset. I dislike that. But if they focus more on the fact that she has a mutation, she's a mutant, I will like it better.
Could it? Do you think it's woke though, or it could also be taken from the fact that when
you say it the way I just said it and the way they say it in the show?
Okay, I'm asking a question though. Could it also be?
It's all in the phrasing.
Maybe the delivery and the phrasing was wrong, but it also could have been like the way they try to tell you that you have confidence, you have the ability, the willpower yourself in you if you just have faith in yourself. I'm not saying you're going to develop superpowers.
That's really kind of a woke thing too. It's like it's because the problem I have with it is that you don't require any training. You just need to let the real you out, and it's just a woke thing.
Now you make it sound like a Care Bear stare.
I just look. Yeah. All I know is with the way things are right now, you're not gonna get a lot of these characters that they've yet to bring into the MCU. You're not gonna get them in the way that they are in the comics, which is unfortunate. You know, I guarantee you that Victoria Alonso is part of the reason why they've been slow walking, bringing in the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Mainly because
men in the title.
Well, not just that, but I mean, some of those characters go against a lot of what they've been preaching, and especially with the Fantastic Four. Look at it this way: look at who the kids are, and how powerful they are. Okay, Franklin Richards is probably one of the most powerful individuals, if not the most powerful individual in Marvel Comics.
Intellectually as well, but that's where I think also they'll probably introduce Pym again, because we still have a white male Vision running around, and that's why I think West Coast Avengers will either pop up, or I think they're going to try to tie it into with the Agents of Atlas if they want to go down that road, because Wanda's gone now, and I don't think he knows.
Well, I still think we are about another. No matter what, I think we are at least another 3 years away, possibly, from really just stopping. I think they're going to have to reboot this soon, because
that's debatable though, because with the leaks of Doctor Doom coming out, that is also going to give us the segue into the Fantastic Four.
I think you can reboot this entire thing and just start fresh, because what we're basically doing is we're getting further and further away from that which made all of this possible. Again, Iron Man, or I should say Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, and a few others are no longer going to be around. A lot of the original actors who were part of the first 3 phases are being shoved to the side. They're being shown out the door. And so, as we are bringing in newer and newer people, part of the other reason why things aren't as popular as they were before is that you're doing a wholesale change without a plan.
Yeah, that's it.
We're not setting any of this up. We're just reacting, which is bad, because that's exactly what Warner Brothers was doing that got them in trouble in the first place. All they did was react. They didn't plan it.
Well, the phase we're getting right now with Doctor Strange 2 and everything.
You know, by the way, we have somebody that joined us. I would like to jump in at some point to say that he's here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know you guys are in your own fucking conversation and have forgotten the world around you.
It's called Nerd Talk.
People joining. Nathan, welcome, my good friend. How are you doing today, Nate?
I'm doing fine. I'm on a lunch break.
And by the way, I've always called you Nate. And it's only until I've seen your name on Facebook I started calling you Nathan.
Either or. It works.
Yeah, fuck you, ginger.
No, the Keith's point real quick. I was just thinking that Marvel needs to find and ground something. The reason Iron Man was awesome was because it was very tangible. It was very grounded. It was tech related, not mystical. And on top of that, he kind of poked, Robert Downey kind of poked fun at the situation. And right now, everything's so lofty and huge and meta, it doesn't make sense.
Well, Nathan, I'd like to add to that. I think the problem is what we've seen with Doctor Strange 2 and then what's coming previously and now with this whole phase is that what we got with Infinity War and Endgame and the build-up through all of it and all the connection that was actually a solidified story, we're not getting it with this phase. It feels like everything's being thrown at the wall, like we're watching pickles at a window at a convenience store, and we're waiting to see which pickle falls first. And what we're seeing is not only the diminishing return of money.
Wait a minute, what the fuck did you just say?
Fuck you, Gary. Let me finish my sentence. And we're seeing
Who
it. Just,
fucking throws pickles?
have you seen any movies that actually does that? Billy Madison is one. Yeah. Yeah. Go look it up. Go look up Billy Madison pickle. Don't make yourself big to
Insanity.
over.
Look, I understand
What
pasta
an
because it
ass.
actually sticks. Fucking pickles?
Yeah. Look it up. There's an actual scene. Okay, bro? I used a good metaphor
Continue
and you
your
shit
thought.
on it.
Continue your thought, but that is just terrible.
Gary, I hate to interrupt you,
Which
but
one was it?
Billy Madison pickles. And from there, what they're seeing is they're seeing what sticks. But the problem is nothing is sticking. They're going with the same format. Hopefully it makes $1 billion. The MCU stands the only thing keeping it afloat. Thor, Love and Blunder, and everything coming and afterwards has been crap.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
I agree.
This phase is like it's like holding your friend's hair over a toilet in a nightclub while it's throwing up and missing the toilet seat. That's wrong with this phase. There is no solidified line of story.
It's each little
Keith,
group is
breathe.
taking their own
You're
show.
turning
That's
white, bro. Breathe.
Yeah. Each show feels like it's run by an art group. It's a little
Run by a
artsy
person.
indie group.
It's run like a person that thinks a coloring book is a comic book.
Yeah.
And now he's watching the video clip and he's like literally watching these three guys yelling in a mirror going, go, go, go at pickles. Right, Gary? Right? Look, he's covering his smile because he knows I wasn't making it up.
No, I'm getting ready to show the video. I'm waiting for because of my internet.
Nice to
I'm
meet
waiting
you.
for it to get caught up so I can share it.
Oh, also, Nathan, nice to meet you, and I have nothing against gingers yet.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
All right, here you go. Is it showing?
Yeah, it's showing. Fuck. I'm not giving Keith nothing. Oh, drink.
Yeah. See now, it's sliced pickles.
It's still pickles, Gary.
No, you got to say sliced.
No, I
pickles.
don't be this. Don't be an etiquette Yahtzee with terminology here. Okay, this isn't Twitter.
No, I'm a word Nazi.
That's fine. You can be a word Nazi all you want, but you don't know my words. Okay, don't woke my words.
Language is
Yeah.
essential to
Yeah.
conveying an idea.
So
You
is trying
son
to
of a
criticize one word to get it on
Throwing
top.
pickles. You convey the image of giant fucking pickles being thrown
okay.
in a window.
All right, for people who know what I'm talking about, they would have got the reference. I am sorry that we didn't go back far enough to the movie of Moses for you to get the joke. I'm sorry. Take your shoes off. And throw them at the mirror and see if they stick. He's going to kick me soon, I know it. Martin, how do you deal with this guy? See, I told you. Fucking white people.
Hey, Nathan. How you doing?
Hello.
It
I
was
haven't seen
called
Ms.
Grant.
Marvel yet, by
Good
the
old
way.
Nate. He's a giant too, just
Nathan,
like me.
can you
He's
take
taller than me
Gary's
by
soul?
like 2 inches.
Hmm?
Because you're 6'4", right?
Yeah, 6'4".
So
Okay,
what?
so you're an inch taller than me.
Mhm.
So I
Martin,
just remember in the photo of the group of us that I looked over and went, God, I'm taller than everybody. Then there's this fucking red-headed fucking Yeti over here.
don't let him call you Yeti. It's gonna be you'll never stop getting trolled. Just don't let him call you that.
The Ginger Yeti.
Yeah.
Oh, floral.
It wasn't a stretch.
Are you going to eat those when you're done, Floral? I hope you're going to eat those and not waste them. You guys don't have an idea what I'm talking about. He sent me a photo.
Are you have you watched any of the Adam Sandler movies, Gary? I just want to know for future records.
And I watched the recent Addams Family.
Oh God, that
animated
trailer.
movie, the first one, not the second one.
Rob Zombie, please stop touching franchises. You suck.
Oh, that was just terrible.
It looked like CW had sex with A&E and tried to make a documentary. That wasn't funny.
Do you remember when all of a sudden the Muppets didn't sound right anymore? That's what this was like.
Kermit the Frog here, wondering why I sound
Kermit the
like
Frog
this.
here. Instead of sounding like Kermit the Frog here, you know,
Kermit.
it just fucking
I
everything
converted
sounded
Mitter.
wrong. And
Kermit.
Lily sounded like her voice is like a bad version of Glinda the Good Witch. She had this vibrato to everything she said, and I'm like, what the fuck is she?
It's
The only one who nailed it was Grandpa.
I don't like his mustache. It's so fucking stupid. It pulls you out of it. It was like watching like a cosplay band of Elvira, but they're very bad at it.
It's the opposite of Marky Mark from Uncharted.
Well, it's based on the famous painting of Vlad.
I know Dustwolf, and stop correcting me. Don't be a Gary. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, I get it. Yeah, because I thought you went with the monsters and then segued over to the Addams Family, but
As soon as
you
you said-
actually fucked up.
Yeah, I did, but like thanks to Das Wolf and outing me out, you go fuck yourself. I love you too.
Yay!
But
Well, I invited Floral, but he won't be joining us because of frozen vegetables.
pickles?
No, frozen vegetables.
Oh.
And once again, Floral, I hope to God you eat those. Don't waste them.
Mm-hmm.
But the show's coming up. We're wrapping up here. It was a good episode. I fucking love Cameron.
Bet you do.
He's cool.
And I love that he reaches out to us.
Bet you
I don't bug him, except for when he's like had the hospital incident. I just like, are you okay? Praying for you, that sort of thing. But when he wants to come on the show, he lets me know.
Yep.
And I love that about him. And then that he remembers what he talked about the last time we were together. I love that about that guy.
I had a question. Did you guys see the Golden Girls cartoon where they took the dialogue from the original series and called it Golden Girls 3030?
Dude, no. This sounds like something that you made up while doing meth.
333. You think I'm joking? Here, Gary, let me blow your mind.
Oh, you're gonna prove to me you don't do meth?
No, I do meth. I take stuff for I take Concerta, which is a methamphetamine byproduct of which is technically a meth for my ADHD. So no, I'm always on meth, bro. Thank you.
Oh, this is a terrible idea.
There you go. They put the Golden Girls and the Jetsons, and I don't know why they're putting their hands on Betty's crotch.
I'm assuming this is for Adult Swim, the same people who made Bird Girl.
It's such a small demographic. Like, who's looking for that?
Let's make shows that hardly anybody's going to watch.
Instead of bringing back the show everybody wants to see, Venture Brothers.
Yeah,
There it is.
they're doing movies, I think.
It's not quick enough for me.
No, not at all.
I need more Venture Brothers. A lot more.
That show started in 2004 when I was still living in Lebanon, Missouri. And Zoe was a teenager by the time it hit its fucking sixth season.
Oh.
Or fifth season. She went from being a toddler to a fucking teen in 5 seasons.
Wow.
How long it took them to make that show?
It was not terrible. Get off my pickle, guys. And actually, Venture Brothers isn't getting any more seasons. What they're doing is, I think they were crowdfunded the movie to wrap everything up. And remember, they do everything by hand animators in there, so it's going to be a while till it's done.
Well, it's still a form of flash animation, but it's hand drawn.
Yeah,
and
it sucks that we allow other stuff to go on and get rid of.
Well, you would think the
like
drop in
Venture
viewership would tell them something, but
Oh
Warner
my
Brothers.
God! See, that was like Strange New Worlds for him. Like you took a great episode and gave it from Pike's perspective, and then you canalized everything, saying that Kirk is the only one that could actually make the Federation last beyond this point. And I love that because I missed it the first time. I was like, fuck yeah.
Hey, CJ, look, he's never made anything without his sperm receptacle. She is in everything that he makes, and mostly because, she is his sperm receptacle.
Double paycheck.
It's well, technically, it's just simply maintaining the fact that she remains his receptacle, because apparently, I guess she's really good in the sack. But I've got to say that the guy can't fucking direct worth a shit. I don't give a shit what people. I love his Halloween. Then you don't love good storytelling. They fucked up the one thing that was essential to telling the story correctly, which is he is a child that grew up in the most average fucking household and became a fucking murderer. Why?
Mhm.
It's like, that is scary as shit. Oh, he tortured. He was clearly a fucking serial killer in the making. That's what this is. It's called masturbation. You're jerking off on camera with your fucking Halloween movies.
What?
Fuck those Rob Zombie movies.
Does everyone want that?
I hated his fucking House of 1,000 Corpses. Oh, let's have every single fucking character we care about die.
There goes the monetization.
But you just described all of Disney and Marvel right now. Every character we saw die.
Well,
Han Solo, Leia, Skywalker.
It is. It is, but slower. He does it in one fucking movie. He got that guy that was old Private Ryan that shit his pants at the cemetery there in France, shaking and stuff at the beginning of the fucking movie, and at the end the bookend scenes that didn't make any sense because we go to a flashback that's not his. Bad storytelling. You don't do that. That's a rule. He broke a fucking storytelling rule. He removed logic and said, I'm going to do this because I think it's interesting, rather than because it makes sense. By the end of the film, we realized that's a fucking lie. There was no way he knew what that D-Day event was like. He was in country fighting in the fucking mainland of France on D-Day. He didn't know what happened on the... Oh, I fucking get so pissed about
Gary,
this.
what you need to do is find a nice guy with a long drill to try to dig through a metal. Buried under Skinwalker Ranch. Go fuck yourself, you pasty bastard. What the fuck?
What makes Michael Myers scary is he was from a normal... Exactly, that's what I'm saying, CJ. Exactly what I'm saying. You know, it was terrifying that this little boy, when they pull that fucking mask off of him, like, what have you done? You know, and he's just got those blank fucking eyes. In the book, he was possessed by an ancient spirit.
Mm-hmm.
But Carpenter took it out because he felt that it was more important to not know than it was to know. Because when you have an answer, there's comfort with an answer. There's no comfort with Michael Myers because it doesn't make sense. And that's horrifying.
That's
How did
what
this
most psycho killers are like. They need to make sense. When they don't make sense or that there's no logic to it, people get lost and they also get spooked, though. So
Yeah,
it'd be
it's
better for
fucking
most.
scary.
Yeah, most things are better if it's less. Less is more, you know.
I think they should just zombies should just get a new horror film.
King Sport Call just told me to go fuck myself. Okay,
Yeah,
buddy, no problem.
what I think what you need to do is get Zombie to do a horror film about a guy who snaps over Biden's gas prices.
Yeah, it's like the only thing good about that film that I liked was that fucking Captain Happy dude. Fuck, that dude's cool. He's been around a long time. I remember him on Star Trek, Mission Impossible when
Captain
he was young,
Spaulding?
man. Whatever his name was, that the clown face.
Yeah,
the
I think
character's name.
didn't he pass 2020 or a little earlier than that? He passed
He
away?
died in 2018, 2019, something like that.
something like that. Yeah, right before.
Yeah, because he was a great actor, man. Prolific character actor. And he was the best part of that fucking movie. Look, Rob doesn't, he knows how to write music. He cannot write stories. He doesn't understand story structure. He doesn't understand themes. He doesn't understand irony. He has absolutely almost no sense of irony at all, which blows my mind that somebody can write music doesn't understand irony. What is that sound?
Someone is drinking something.
No, it sounds like he's pissing in a cup.
Oh, jeez, God, no.
Because Gary,
Man, I've been
hangs
streaming
out.
for hours, so I got to stream into this cup.
Gary hangs out around a lot of public washrooms to know what pissing into an object sounds like. That's what he's saying.
Well, exactly, sucks. That's my biggest beef with him. But I'm not a fan of that House of 1,000 Corpses either.
Yeah.
When I watch a film, I want something that's going to scare me. I was bored watching that film because, one, I need a good story. I need characters that are interesting, and you got to care about somebody. This is one of the first rules they teach you in writing. Create a protagonist that your audience is interested in, that they care about and hope doesn't die. by the end of the film. And he doesn't do that.
There's a lot of shows that don't do that these days.
You know, he just creates villains that are fun and interesting. And it's like, all right. You know, because the second film was better. Don't get me wrong. I thought the Hell's Rejects or Devil's Rejects. Devil's Rejects was a better film than House of a Thousand Corpses. But I put that as a B movie. I don't put that as a written as a good film, so it won't get the A status.
Well, somebody just came in on my feed. Adam Scott has been cast in Madam Web.
As Adam Scott. Oh, yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, he's been cast in Madam Web, it looks like.
He'll be comedic somehow, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah, Rob's music's great, man. Yeah, the first time I criticized him, I got nervous because he had a place near Springfield, Missouri, and played the what is that place downtown, Keith? The guys that wear the funny hats.
Yeah, that's the Shrine Mosque.
Shrine Mosque. He plays there on a regular basis. And I don't know, does he still have a place right outside Springfield?
That I don't know.
I think the reason he ended up coming there was because of Forsyth, because they're friends. And William Forsyth has a place right outside Springfield, too.
Mm-hmm.
As does the Pitt family. But they've always been there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're from Springfield.
Yeah.
They even have a church, a main church that they go to is down right off of the Martin Luther King Bridge, is the church that the Pitt family goes to. And I think it's got Pitt in its name.
Oh, my God. Wait. Can I go back to our previous conversation about the Young Avengers quickly?
Okay.
Because I think Keith just nailed something. The actress who plays Ms. Marvel has actually voiced wanting to be in Young Avengers. So if we get her plus the kids who played Wanda's kids in WandaVision and the young Loki from the Loki series, technically we could have a Young Avengers variant actually be brought to fruition within the next, I guess, decade.
That'd be nice.
That's not where they're going. Where they're going to go is they're going to use America Chavez. They're going to use what's
she
her
was
name?
an interesting character. I enjoyed her character because she wasn't a Mary Sue.
Hawkeye.
Yeah. They're going to use Kate Bishop.
Look, she's just cute. I'll watch her in anything.
Ms. Marvel, and they'll use basically they are going with a lot of the young girls, and at this point they'll probably do maybe one or two young boys of color. But you will not see who you...
What color?
Well, anybody but white.
The king.
But pink is a color. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because we've gone over 2 hours.
The pickle.
Yeah. I'm just saying, you're not going to get Miles Morales.
Oh, you thought Nathan was script
Thank
doctor
God.
His avatar. Yeah. It really does look like a script doctor avatar.
Thank God. I do not want Miles Morales in anything right now.
But
no offense.
I want to thank everybody for being here. It's been a fun show. It was great having Cameron on. I fucking love that guy.
Yeah.
And once again, if you get me my list, Martin, I would deeply appreciate it, my friend.
I'm on it.
There it is. You got it for me, like right as I asked. 32 flavors of Nick Weiser, Anima Confusa, Apollome's Minion, Bill Barkley, Brightest Day, CJ Badpunk, Commander Ed Straker of Shadow, Flaccid Phoenix was here, Floral from Under a Rock, Just a Passerby, Latino Slant Polly, Lord Thoth, Marcos A, Monkey Jeebus, one of my two favorite monkeys, Nathan Cheever, Penny J, Rough Girl TV, both were here. Scribe Light was here. Secret Circus podcast. That is my buddy Chris, former Army Ranger buddy of mine. And Small Time Republic. Sox Bulletins was here. The Comic Relief Crusader. Now I'm doing his voice. Crusader. The Community. The Lovely Sherry. Peter Vinkman Fansite. Tree Rock Creations, which is a friend of Keith's and mine. And the other monkey I love, War Monkey. And, of course, our good friend Kyle, also known as Sax. But we just say, Kyle. I want to thank all you guys for being here. A great show. CJ, thanks a lot, man. I'm sorry, man, that I've caused you a problem with calling you Bat Spunk that one time. And now you're stuck with a name like me, Backdoor Gary. Fuck you. Live with it, CJ. Love you, buddy.
Das Wolfen.
I'm sorry.
Glad you like the glasses.
I'm really.
John is here. No, wasn't he in there? I thought I saw him in there. I thought
He's in there. He was talking about pickles. Did you guys just hear that? The Fantastic Four. The rumor is that Steven Spielberg is going to direct it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, Nathan and I talked about it last night, and here's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I have a personal fucking beef with that man, and it's not what you think. It's because he's fucked over somebody that I care about.
Who do you fuck over?
And I'm not gonna fucking say their name. I still work with them.
Oh, okay.
No way am I gonna do that. Fucking kill my job. He still works with Spielberg too. But the problem is Spielberg absolutely fucked him. And I resent the things that he's done to my friend. And so I have a personal beef with him. But with that, I'm still also a classic fan of a lot of his work. I enjoyed his Tom Cruise movies. I thought they put out some good stuff. He still can make good films. I just think that half the shit he's done in over the last 20 years is crap. 25 years since Schindler's List, because I really didn't think that was that great a film. I had a lot of problems with it.
There was no color.
You got the look from both of us that time, Steven.
No, he looked away. You looked at me. That's the difference.
So let's get back to the comments. Bat Punk ain't letting that go. This Marvel mid-credit scene. I haven't seen the final episode. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to watch it right after this show. I want to thank my friends for showing up. I want to thank Kamran Pasha for being here. What a great guy. I fucking love that dude.
Why are we clapping?
Yeah, the first time I finally made it live and I hear fuck. It's good to see you, Hojo. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Please feel free to join us anytime. We got a Saturday show tomorrow. We have the special effects guy from a lot of shows, including what is it, Mindhunter? No, what is that show called? Mindhunters? Is that
Criminal Minds.
Criminal Minds. Criminal Minds.
As well as
based on the original FBI team that looked up serial killers.
Along
and then, of
with
course,
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I've got this, man. I've got it.
Okay.
Fuck you, Keith.
Didn't he also do the VFX?
Now you go ahead and lay some out there, Keith.
Didn't he do the VFX?
Lay down some knowledge. What shows he worked
No.
on.
I was just gonna say Pirates of the Caribbean 2 and 3.
Yeah.
He
also worked on the Pirates porn parody. No, I'm kidding. He wasn't.
He worked on Bat Spunk. I know that much.
Titanic, and
he is a good friend of Keith's of mine. I met him the same day that Keith and I became friends. And so technically I've been friends with him as long as I've been friends with Keith. Just a wonderful guy. He's going to be on tomorrow with some video, behind the scenes video of stuff that he worked on. It's going to be a lot of fun. Floral, take it easy, man. And don't forget, eat your vegetables. Just saying. Anyway, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. That's 12 noon Central Time tomorrow. Thomas Seymour, special effects guy from a lot of fucking TV and film. Going to be here talking about his career, prolific career. With that, we're out of here.
Right,
Bye, guys.
in the ring.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Pop Culture Minefield. If you've enjoyed the show, please make sure to like, subscribe, and don't forget to
blow
click
that
the bell
nose, Keith.
icon for
Blow it.
updates on our
Clean up
shows
that
and
nose.
channel.
Remember to
Also,
slap all
please leave
those
a comment,
pickles.
and we'd like to know what you thought of the episode, as well as letting us know if there's something you'd like us to cover in a future
Just
episode.
remember, today is Slap a
Don't forget that
Ginger
you can
Day.
become a member of Pop Culture
Yes.
Minefield now.
So
Great celebration.
Make sure to visit our
All of
membership
favorite
page
gingers in the world.
and merch store.
Or just reach out to your local circus and get the
popcultureminefield.com.
first red clown you
You
see.
can always find Pop Culture Minefield on Twitter,
That includes all
Facebook,
fake. That's
Instagram,
right, fake
YouTube,
gingers,
and
too.
Twitch.